Chapter 1457. The Kai family was not in Luyang town, nor was it below Yang Cauldron Mountain. Instead, it was on the other side of Luyang River. Xiaohua only used the time it took to drink a cup of tea to fly there. When he landed on the ground, he lowered his head to look at Mei who had not closed her eyes the entire way. Not only was she not afraid, but she was also somewhat excited. He smiled and said, "I didn't lie to you, right? Elder brother Immortal is indeed an elder immortal. You didn't lie to Mei Mei felt as if she was still flying leisurely in the sky, and her words were somewhat floating. Is this the Kai family? Xiaohua looked at the appearance of a manor not far away, and the place opposite the riverbank, the tall archway and the vermilion door asked. It should be. Mei looked and said, when Mei came last time, I went through the door on the side with elder sister Immortal's maid. And very good. Mei take this. This is something this poor Taoist is giving to your grandfather. If your grandfather gets sick and the doctor says that there's no way to treat him, you can let him take this medicine. Maybe something strange will happen. Xiaohua handed the parasol pill over. Is this an immortal pill? Can it cure grandfather's eyes? Mei was not polite. She stretched out her hand to take it and asked curiously. Xiaohua shook his head, making Mei very depressed. She somewhat listlessly took back the parasol pill. Oh, also this is for you. When you have the opportunity to cultivate like I in the future, take out this pill and ask your master how to take it. Xiaohua thought for a moment, then took out the osmanthus pill, clean lotus pill, and clear fragrance pill each and gave them to Mei. He said with a smile, this is your reward for bringing I here. Go to the Kai family and knock on the door. When I arrive, I will ask the Kai family people to send you back. Oh then. Mei thanks elder brother Immortal. Mei didn't know what these pills were, nor did she understand Xiaohua's meaning. She could only accept these pills. Afterwards, she jogged all the way, ran past the memorial archway, jumped up a few steps, and tried her best to stand on her tiptoes. She stretched out her hand, barely reaching for the knocker on the door. Once again, she silently knocked on the vermilion door. Xiaohua slowly walked behind Mei smiling as he looked at Mei hard work. Mei knocked for a while, but no one came to answer the door. She didn't know if it was because she didn't use much strength or the sound was very soft. Mei was at a loss of what to do. Her face was red as she turned around to look at Xiaohua. She rubbed her 2 little feet back and forth with her 10 fingers, relieving the numbness from standing on tiptoe just now. Xiaohua only looked at her with a smile and didn't say anything. Mei looked at him with her big watery eyes for a moment, then she bit her lips and turned around. She stood on her tiptoes and once again used her fingertips to pull the doorknob with difficulty. Pa! 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 The monotonous knocks on the door continued. Got it! After about the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the sound of the door opening came from the side. A small door that was about the height of a person was opened, and an old man in his 50s walked out. The old man was dressed in green, and he looked a little old and dim-sighted. Seeing someone come out, Mei's face was filled with joy. She ran over with a smile and called out, Grandpa! The old man looked at Mei and his face was somewhat unhappy. He scolded, Little girl, which family are you from? How dare you come to the Kai family's manor to cause trouble? Didn't your parents teach you? Is the Kai family's door something that you can casually knock on? Grandpa! Mei was excited, as if she didn't expect to be scolded. Her face was somewhat frightened, but she still wanted to explain. Quickly go back. Grandpa will pretend that he didn't hear anything. The old man waved his hand and said, Next time you can't do it. Grandpa! It's not Mei who caused trouble. It's an immortal elder over there who wants to see Sister Fairy, so Mei came to knock on the door. Mei pulled the old man's sleeve and pointed at Xiaohua. Immortal elder? The old man was slightly stunned. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Xiaohua, puzzled. Don't immortal elders fly directly to the backyard? Why are they here? Mei just flew here. Mei said with a smile. Really? Hearing this, the old man didn't dare to neglect and quickly walked in front of Xiaohua. Seeing Xiaohua's Taoist robe, he immediately said respectfully, Kai family's old servant greets immortal elder. Xiaohua quickly returned the greeting and said, Elder, Please don't be so polite. I am here to visit Fairy Xianxia. Elder, please inform her. Oh, this old servant understands. Immortal Elder, please wait a moment. This old servant will go guard the door and invite Immortal Elder to enter. The old man's face was very flattered. He walked back and entered through the small corner door. In just a moment, the red door opened with a creak. Old Kai, what are you doing? Who allowed you to open the door without permission? A stern voice sounded from inside the door. From the half-open door, Xiaohua saw a thin and small cultivator shouting at the old man in a stern voice. Housekeeper Kai, the old man said submissively, there is an immortal elder outside who wants to visit second miss. This old servant opened the door to welcome the immortal elder. Immortal elder? The cultivator frowned and looked at Xiaohua. He then scolded, Old Kai, are you not satisfied with being a gatekeeper? You want to go somewhere else? Why don't you take a look at this person's cultivation? My Kai family's door can't be opened unless one is at least at the 5th level of qi refining. This old servant. How would I know the immortal elder's cultivation? This door. Can't any immortal elder open it? The old man asked in confusion. This is a new rule set by Qin Yang's Kai family. Don't tell me you don't know? Qin Yang. Kai families. Rules can control me, Lu Yang? The old man was unhappy when he heard this. Are you the housekeeper or am I the housekeeper? The cultivator shouted. Quickly close the door. There's no need to inform the family head for now. Let this poor Taoist go and see which cultivator admires the second Mississippi. If he has no background, this poor Taoist will send him away. There are always cultivators coming every once in a while. Do you think my Kai family's door is so easy to open? The cultivator quickly walked in front of Xiaohua and cupped his hands with a smile. I am Kai family's housekeeper, Kai Mingsong. How should I address you, fellow Taoist? Do you come from some aristocratic family or sect? Xiaohua indifferently looked at Kai Mingsong, whose cultivation was about the same as his, and returned the greeting. I am Xiaohua, a wandering cultivator. Xiaohua? Kai Mingsong stared blankly, a trace of astonishment flashing through his eyes. Soon after, it was covered up with deliberate contempt. A wandering cultivator. What's wrong with wandering cultivators? Xiaohua didn't seem to notice Kai Mingsong's trace of astonishment and coldly asked. My Kai family doesn't welcome wandering cultivators. Moreover, we don't wish for wandering cultivators to disturb my family's direct disciples' cultivation. Kai Mingsong was even colder. If fellow Taoist has foresight, you'd better find an immortal's cave and immerse yourself in bitter cultivation. Only then will there be a day when you'll be successful. Don't put any flowery guts or crooked thoughts on our cultivator aristocratic family. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He didn't expect Kai Mingsong to regard him as someone who wanted to climb up the social ladder. But just as he was hesitating whether or not to tell him about Wuxia, Kai Mingsong strangely said, but seeing that you're already at the 4th layer of qi refining at such a young age, you can be considered a cultivator with a bright future. I will help you. Go to town and find an inn to stay in. When second miss comes out of seclusion, I'll find an opportunity to ask her. If she's interested in meeting you, I'll inform you. How could Xiaohua have time to wait? After thinking for a moment, he cupped his hands and said, I came this time because I have an important matter related to Wuxia. I want to see Fairy Xianxia. Since Fairy Xianxia is in seclusion, I hope fellow Taoist can report this to the Kai family's patriarch. Ah, news about eldest miss. Without waiting for Kai Mingsong to open his mouth, Kai Mingsong's face lit up with joy. He walked towards the inn while shouting, This old servant will inform the master. Unfortunately, the old man's hands and feet were very clumsy. After running a few steps, he staggered and almost fell. Mayor's eyes were quick. She quickly ran over and supported the old man, saying, Grandpa, be careful. And good. Little girl, come inside with Grandpa. Grandpa will find you something delicious to eat. After receiving news about Wuxia, the old man seemed very happy. He smiled and patted Mayor's head. Mayor didn't dare to agree. She turned her head and looked at Xiaohua. Xiaohua slightly nodded. Kai Mingsong opened his mouth, but he didn't stop the old man. He turned his head and said with a smile, "So you're an old acquaintance of eldest miss. May I know where fellow Taoist met eldest miss? Where is eldest miss right now?" "Fellow Taoist, don't worry. When your family's patriarch comes out, I'll tell him everything," Xiaohua said while shaking his head. Kai Mingsong snorted, "Fellow Taoist, don't tell me you're using eldest Miss's name to do something?" Xiaohua didn't pay attention to him. He looked at the Kai family's gate and said, "I heard fellow Taoist Kai say that Hongxia Fairy has been in seclusion for a long time. She hasn't come out yet?" "Humph, you gave yourself away." Kai Mingsong sneered, "Since it's news about eldest miss, why didn't you inform my family's patriarch? Why did you have to inform my family's second miss?" "Elder sister. Elder sister." Xiaohua was too lazy to retort. Just as he was about to turn his head, a clear voice came from the sky. A young girl wearing red and green clothes, whose cultivation was around the third layer of qi refining, flew out from the Kai family's courtyard. "Where's my elder sister?" The girl was around 10 years old. She had bright eyes and white teeth. She had delicate features and was a beauty in the making. She looked many times more beautiful than May, third miss. This cultivator only said that he brought news about eldest Mississippi. He didn't say that eldest miss came back. Kai Mingsong said with a smile, "Ah, it's not elder sister who came back. This old Kai." The girl obviously didn't hear old Kai's words clearly. She curled her lips and looked at Xiaohua, cupping her hands and saying, "I'm Kai Mingxia from the Kai family. Greetings, fellow Taoist." Strange, why haven't I heard Kai Wuxia mention this girl before? Xiaohua was a bit puzzled. When he saw Kai Mingxia salute him, he didn't dare to be negligent. He also saluted, "I'm Xiaohua. Greetings, fellow Taoist Kai." "Fellow Taoist Kai?" When Kai Mingxia heard this, she couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. Her eyebrows revealed a trace of charm. "I know, you're the dual cultivation partner that elder sister found." Kai Mingxia had just put down her hands when she suddenly said this. "If you like this work, you're welcome to come to Qidian. Come to vote." Chapter 1458. Xiaohua didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at the girl who didn't even reach his chest. Her face still had childishness and her eyes were filled with passion. He hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Little fellow Kai is wrong, the person in fellow Kai's heart." Xiaohua hurriedly shut up. Li Zongbao's matter was related to the utmost happiness faction's face. How could he say that? Moreover, the matter between Li Zongbao and Kai Wuxia had already been destroyed along with Kai Wuxia's death, so he couldn't talk nonsense. Ha! Isn't fellow Xiao the same? Could it be that there's another handsome guy? Kai Mingxia blinked her big eyes and asked curiously. Him. He's just a rogue cultivator, even if Big Miss is willing, family head won't agree. Kai Mingsong disdainfully curled his lips. Uncle Mingsong, this matter of dual cultivation is the matter of Big Sister's direct disciples. How can I, a concubine's disciple, say anything? If family head sees fellow Zhao's slender and elegant figure, he might even agree. Kai Mingxia was young, but she knew a lot. She acted like an adult and spoke to Kai Mingsong. Xiaohua couldn't stand it and hurriedly waved his hand. Little fellow Kai, slender and elegant. I'm afraid it's used to describe female cultivators. Fellow Xiao is so tall and slender, I think you're more suitable for Tingting than the others. Kai Mingxia explained in a deadpan manner. This. Xiaohua was speechless and didn't know what to say. Just as Xiaohua was feeling awkward, a dozen or so sounds of air breaking rang out from the Kai family manor. Xiaohua looked over and saw a dozen or so young people in the third or fourth level of qi refining, wearing the same clothes, flying out from the Kai family manor. The sect brothers are here, fellow Xiao, you have a lot of face. Kai Mingxia said with a smile like a flower. The dozen or so disciples landed on the ground and neatly lined up in 2 rows from the Kai family's main gate all the way to Xiaohua's front. Immediately after, the sound of a door opening could be heard and the Kai family's main gate split into 2. Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and looked over. The person at the front was a 10th layer aura refining cultivator. He was also tall and thin, with a square face. On his dark and slightly withered face, There were several deep wrinkles that showed the vicissitudes of life. This person's eyes were extremely bright and his lips were slightly thin. At this moment, they were tightly shut, revealing a silent majesty. Looking at the people behind him, they weren't young either, and most of them were in the 9th or 10th layer of the Qi refining realm. I'm afraid it's the head of the Kai clan, right? Xiao Hua thought in his heart as he quickly walked to the middle of the Kai family's disciples and bowed respectfully. Junior Xiao Hua greets Senior Kai. No need for formalities. No need for formalities. I am Kai Haisong. Thank you, fellow Taoist Xiao, for bringing back news of Wuxia. Kai Haisong's face was still unhappy as he cupped his hands and said, I don't dare to accept your thanks. I only met fellow Taoist Kai by chance and received a lot of help from fellow Taoist Kai. Sending her news back is something I should do. Xiao Hua said politely. Come, these are Ai's sect brothers. They are also Wuxia's elders. Fellow Taoist Xiao, please get to know them. As Kai Haisong spoke, he waved his hand and introduced the people behind him to Xiao Hua. They were precisely Kai Shansong, Kai Fengsong, Kai Hasong, and the others. After Xiao Hua finished greeting them one by one, he heard Kai Haisong say, Fellow Taoist Xiao, please. We'll talk in the main hall. Clan head. Seeing Kai Haisong turn around and walk through the main door, Kai Mingsong anxiously said, This Xiao Hua's origin is unknown. He's a loose cultivator. The matter between him and eldest miss is still unclear. If we enter through the main door of the Kai clan now, wouldn't we be giving others a reason to gossip? In the future, what will happen to eldest miss? Kai Haisong frowned slightly and glanced at Kai Mingsong in displeasure. Also, clan head, didn't Qingyang's Kai clan send over the new rules of the Kai clan long ago? Unless it's the door of life and death, or the door of nobility, can't the Kai clan's main door be easily opened to outsiders? Mingsong. Luyang's Kai clan is Luyang's Kai clan. Why must we listen to Qingyang's Kai clan? Fellow Taoist Xiao brought news of Wuxia. He's our Kai clan's honored guest. If we don't open the courtyard door to welcome him, wouldn't that be lacking in etiquette? Kai Shansong said from the side. Brother Shansong, isn't this little brother also thinking of our Luyang's Kai clan? Since we want to take Qingyang's Kai clan as the successor, then we must follow their rules. Otherwise, how can we be the Kai clan without proper status? Kai Mingsong said with a smile. If Qingyang's Kai clan were to know of these matters, wouldn't we be inviting trouble? Ha! What's this guy doing? Xiao Hua looked at Kai Mingsong in confusion. Kai Mingsong had obstructed him time and time again, but obstructing him was only to let him pass through the main door. It didn't do any harm to him. Moreover, it was in front of the Kai clan's clan head, Kai Haisong. Wasn't this brushing away the clan head's face? What if this sect head insists on inviting fellow Taoist Xiao through the main door? Could it be that Qingyang's Kai clan wants to incriminate our Luyang's Kai clan? Kai Haisong sneered. I forgot. Xiao Hua suddenly remembered that he had killed Kai Xianxia. If he really walked through the main door, then wouldn't he implicate Kai Haisong? Why bother? This is all for the clan head to consider. Little brother is only reminding the clan head to fulfill his duty as a steward. Kai Mingsong said with a smile. Forget it, Senior Kai. Junior is a rogue cultivator and not some high-level cultivator. It's better to go through the side door. Xiao Hua cupped his hands and said, No need. Fellow Taoist Xiao, please follow me. Kai Haisong pulled on Xiao Hua's sleeve and walked towards the main door. Seeing that they were about to reach the main door, Xiao Hua suddenly asked, Senior Kai, if the main door isn't open, then a high-level cultivator must have come to visit and wanted to open the main door. Then what about the door of life and death? Oh, the door of life and death is the door of life and death. You can go through the main door. Kai Haisong frowned and explained. Sigh, Xiao Hua gently pulled his sleeve out of Kai Haisong's hand and said with a bitter smile, Junior originally wanted to explain it to Senior in the courtyard, but since the Kai family has its own rules, this humble Taoist will also say it in advance. What? Kai Haisong's heart skipped a beat. He raised his eyebrows and shouted. Fellow Taoists, please step aside. Xiao Hua said and took a few steps back. He patted his hand and took out Kai Wuxia's huge coffin from his storage bag. He lightly held it with one hand and solemnly placed it on the ground. "This is," Kai Fengsong said anxiously. "Yes, this is fellow Taoist Kai Wuxia's coffin," Xiaohua said in a low voice. "Big sister," Kai Mingxia shouted from behind everyone. Her voice was already filled with sobs. "Fellow Taoist Xiao, you're not joking?" Kai Haisong's face was slightly pale. Xiaohua shook his head and only used his eyes to look at the very rough coffin beside him. "Third brother, take a look," Kai Haisong said to Kai Hasong in a deep voice. Kai Hasong walked to the front of the coffin and reached out his hand to grab a corner of the coffin. With a slight force, the coffin opened up a slit, revealing Kai Wuxia's lifelike face inside. Sigh, Kai Hasong saw Kai Wuxia's lifeless appearance and sighed as he closed the coffin. Seeing Kai Hasong's appearance, Kai Haisong's face turned ashen. He waved his hand and said loudly, "Hasong, quickly go to the shady area of Yang Cauldron Mountain and get a willow branch for Wuxia to summon her soul." "Yes." Kai Hasong's face was filled with grief and indignation. He stood up and was about to fly away. Xiaohua was stunned. He waved his hand and took out the willow branch from the storage space. He asked, "Senior Kai, can this willow branch be used?" However, when Xiaohua took out the willow branch, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. In the storage space behind Xiaohua's head, with the light of tracing back time, all the spirit herbs grew as fast as years. At this time, many of the spirit herbs were over 1,000 years old. This willow branch had been in the storage space for many days. It was equivalent to tens or even hundreds of years in the Xiaoyu continent. Even if it wasn't an ordinary willow branch, there should be some changes, right? And this willow branch was exactly the same as the one Xiaohua obtained in the auction in Yenyuan City. Why does fellow Taoist Kai have a willow branch with him? Kai Haisong asked curiously. Could it be that it has always been with Wuxia's coffin? "Oh yes. Xiaohua was slightly stunned and casually answered. "Oh, that's the best." Kai Haisong forced a smile and said, "Since it can be with Wuxia's coffin, it can summon her soul. Haisong, there's no need to go. You guys go in and prepare the morning hall." "Senior Kai, what's the matter with this willow branch?" Xiaohua asked in confusion. My Kai family has a rule. When a disciple dies in a foreign land, when the coffin is brought back to the Kai family, we have to use the willow branch to summon their soul. We're afraid that the soul of the deceased will wander in a foreign land, unable to find the way back. Kai Haisong's expression was gloomy as he looked at Kai Wuxia's lifelike face and said, This junior understands. How do I use it?" Xiaohua asked. Kai Haisong waved his hand and said, "Since this willow branch is with Wuxia's coffin, her soul must be nearby. Fellow Taoist Xiao only needs to wave it a few times and then casually pat Wuxia's body a few times." Then he looked into the distance and said with some gratification, "Could it be that fellow Taoist Xiao is so fated with Wuxia that you actually have a willow branch with you? Maybe Wuxia's soul hasn't left her body yet. You can just casually summon it a few times." When Xiaohua heard these words without any reason, he didn't take it seriously. The willow branch was an ordinary willow branch and the person who died in a faraway place. He used the teleportation formation to come here, so how could the soul follow him? However, he still followed Kai Haisong's instructions and raised the willow branch in his hand. He waved it a few times on Kai Wuxia's coffin and then shook it a few times on Kai Wuxia's body. However, something unexpected happened. When Xiaohua waved the willow branch, a kind of life force flowed out from his space along with the movement of the willow branch. On top of the willow branch, there was a bean-sized water droplet. This water droplet was not on the willow branch before. It was the result of being inserted into the space in the past 10 days. When Xiaohua shook the willow branch, the water droplet slid down from the willow branch. It drew an arc in the air and directly fell between Kai Wuxia's eyebrows. There was something even stranger. In the far west of the Dawn Rain continent, in a boiling spring, there was a light figure that looked like a human but wasn't human. Its body was surrounded by a 7-colored halo and was immersed in it. Suddenly, just as the willow branch in Xiaohua's hand danced and the power of life flowed, the light figure shot out from the spring. The 7-colored halo violently rotated, and an emotionless ice-cold voice sounded, "Paramitha? How is this possible? How could this thing be here?"
Before the voice fell, a pair of wings that were dozens of feet long suddenly grew out from the seven-colored halo. The wings seemed to have many layers, but they were very transparent and couldn't be seen clearly. The wings slightly flapped and the light figure quickly flew forward and disappeared in the blink of an eye. Is that so? Senior Kai. In Liu Yang's Kai family, Xiaohua turned his head and asked. Many thanks, fellow Taoist Xiao. It is so. Kai Haisong nodded and said. You're welcome. As Xiaohua spoke, he put the willow branch back into the space and stuck it in its original place. In the sky in the far east, in just a short moment, the light figure had already flown over 1,000 li. Why can't I sense the aura of the Paramitha? Could it be that my senses were wrong? The light figure stopped and looked in the direction of Liu Yang with hesitation. After a long while, it shook its head slightly. The aura of the Paramitha is far from something that can be concealed by the space magic of the cultivation world. Since it wasn't there before, how could it appear now? Moreover, the Paramitha was destroyed long ago. It can't appear in the cultivation world. Immediately, the light figure turned around and flew back into the spring. In Liu Yang's Kai family, Kai Haisong waved his hand and shouted, Carry the coffin into the manor. Yes. Behind Xiao Hua, more than 10 disciples of the Kai family had tears in their eyes as they replied in unison. They walked forward and each of them grabbed a corner of the coffin and carried it into the manor. Fellow Taoist Xiao, please. At this moment, Kai Haisong was very polite as he invited Xiao Hua in. Xiao Hua glanced at Kai Mingsong, who still seemed to be in a daze, and walked into the Kai family's manor. The Kai family's manor was quite big. After walking through the main gate for a while, they entered the main hall. At this moment, many men and women in the manor had received the news and were rushing over with anxious expressions. Fellow Taoist Kai, please have some tea. Everyone was seated in the main hall. Kai Haisong raised his hand and said, Many thanks, Senior Kai. Xiao Hua politely picked up the teacup and took a sip. Kai Haisong was somewhat anxious. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to put down the teacup, he opened his mouth and said, Fellow Taoist Xianxia, what happened to her? Kai Wuxia's death had stirred up the Flying Phoenix Ridge and the Misty Mountain, and the matter behind it was a secret between the two clans. In Xiao Hua's mind, the Misty Mountain wanted to capture him for the sake of secrecy, and if he really explained the reason behind it, it would be unavoidable for the Kai clan to be dragged into the whirlpool. Therefore, he had already thought it through on the way here, and only talked about the matter between the two of them, and did not mention anything else. Sure enough, when Kai Haisong and the rest heard this, they all frowned and stared at Xiao Hua with bright eyes. Although Xiao Hua's words clearly explained the cause of Kai Wuxia's death, but he did not mention the location and cause of her death. How could they be at ease? Fellow Taoist Xiao, seems to have a lot of things that you haven't said. Kai Mingsong asked from the side. Also, where is the young mistress's storage bag? Why isn't it in the coffin? Xiao Hua sighed. Looking at everyone's questioning eyes, he thought to himself, I didn't want to tell you all at first. I was afraid that it would involve the storage bag. Kai Wuxia clearly said that the contents of the storage bag must be personally handed over to Fairy Xianxia. There must be a reason. But Fairy Xianxia was in seclusion, so I had no choice but to come. This matter is a little difficult to handle. Xiao Hua nodded and said, Fellow Taoist Kai's storage bag is in I's sleeve. And then, Fellow Taoist Xiao, please return it to my Kai family. Wuxia's storage bag contains my Kai family's ancestral yellow talisman. My Kai family must take it back. Kai Shansong said anxiously. Xiao Hua still nodded and said, Since I can return fellow Taoist Kai's coffin, I will definitely return fellow Taoist Kai's storage bag to the Kai family. But what? Kai Haifeng also asked curiously. But before fellow Taoist Kai died, he instructed that this storage bag must be personally handed over to Fairy Xianxia by I. A bunch of nonsense. Kai Mingsong hurriedly jumped out and said, This guy said earlier that he wanted to see the second young mistress. When he heard that the second young mistress was in seclusion, he said that he wanted to see the family head. Now, he wants to hand the storage bag to the second young mistress. Does he think that I can't see through the clues inside? Humph. Xiao Hua looked coldly at Kai Mingsong and did not explain. Mingsong. Kai Haisong scolded. You can leave now. Go out and take care of Wuxia's funeral. If fellow Taoist Xiao has other thoughts, he doesn't have to come at all. You think too much. Kai Ming Song raised his neck, cupped his hands and walked out of the hall.
Chapter 1459. Not long after Kai Ming Song left the hall, a servant of the Kai family secretly slipped out of the manor. While everyone in the Kai family was mourning the loss of Kai Wuxia, he crossed the river alone and went to Luyang town. As for what he was going to do, the Kai family had no idea. Fellow Taoist Xiao, after Kai Ming Song left, Kai Hai Song said, "Can you tell us more about Wuxia's matter?" Xiao Hua looked at the few people and said in a low voice, "Seniors, do you think she can fight against a foundation establishment stage cultivator?"
Kai Hai Song sucked in a breath of cold air and looked at the other brothers. He did not dare to ask any more.
Wuxia's storage bag must be given to Red Cloud, but, in the end, it is still returned to my Kai family. Red Cloud has been in seclusion for more than 2 years and there is no sign of her coming out. This time, she is in seclusion until death.
At the beginning of her seclusion, she said that if she does not enter the 10th level of qi refining, she will not come out.
Wuxia was also moved by her sister's matter, which is why she went out to travel. She hoped that she would encounter something that could raise her cultivation and help her sister come out. If fellow Taoist Xiao wants to follow Wuxia's last words and give the storage bag to Red Cloud, then we can only wait for Red Cloud to come out. But what if she stays in seclusion and is unable to break through the 10th level of qi refining? Could it be that fellow Taoist Xiao will not return the storage bag to my Kai family? I might as well wait for Xianxia Fairy to come out of seclusion. Xiao Hua thought to himself, this way I can't leave, but I can't stay either. I can't keep waiting here just because Fairy Red Cloud is in seclusion. But if I leave, will the Kai family let me go? Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and said, "Senior Kai, please enlighten me." Kai Hai Song thought for a while and said, "If fellow Taoist Xiao does not mind, you can stay here for a few days. I will see if I can wake Red Cloud up. If it is not possible, I hope fellow Taoist Xiao can make an exception." "Well said, I will do as Senior Kai says."
Xiao Hua cupped his hands and said,
"Shan Song, bring fellow Taoist Xiao out to rest."
"Oh, I just brought Ai to Mei.
Senior Kai, please send someone to send her back."
Mei
Don't worry, fellow Taoist Xiao, I will make the necessary arrangements. Kai Hai Song nodded. After Xiao Hua left the hall with Kai Shan Song, everyone was silent for a moment. Kai Feng Song whispered, "Big brother, can Xiao Hua's words be trusted?" Kai Hai Song smiled bitterly. "So what if I don't believe you? He's a 4th layer qi refining rogue cultivator, yet he brought Wuxia's body back to the Kai clan from afar. This alone makes him a benefactor of the Kai clan. Besides, he didn't seem to deny the matter of the storage bag. If he really doesn't want to return it, he can just say that he didn't see it. Wuxia's death, could it be related to him? That's not possible. He's only in the 4th layer of qi refining. Wuxia was already in the late 4th layer of qi refining 2 years ago. Xiao Hua is definitely not Wuxia's opponent." Then he sent Wuxia's coffin back, and even returned the storage bag. Moreover, he wanted to personally give it to Xianxia. "Big brother, do you think that this bastard is really like what Ming Song said? Does he really covet Xianxia?" I can't say for sure." Kai Hai Song shook his head. Even if he covets Xianxia, so what? He's just a rogue cultivator in the 4th layer of qi refining, while Xianxia is in the 9th layer of qi refining. Normally, she wouldn't care about the children of any aristocratic family, so Xiao Hua definitely wouldn't be in her eyes. In any case, if we can avoid trouble, we'll avoid it. If we can avoid it, we'll avoid it. He wants to see it, but Xianxia. It's been almost 3 years, and she still hasn't come out of seclusion. This storage pouch originally belonged to my Kai family. Inside it are also the yellow talismans and other items from my Kai family that Wuxia brought with her when she traveled. These items originally belonged to my Kai family, so Xiao Hua should return them to my Kai family. How did this natural thing become something our Kai clan should be grateful for? Judging from Xiao Hua's intentions, he probably has some ulterior motive, right? Don't think too much about it. Let's first look at Wuxia's body and see if it's the same as what Xiaohua said. Then we'll think about how to deal with the funeral. Kai Haisong waved his hand impatiently. Of course, Kai Wuxia's body wasn't fake. The backside of her body was completely destroyed. When the women of the Kai clan saw it, they couldn't help but shed tears of grief. Although Kai Haisong and the other men didn't shed a single tear in front of their faces, the mournful and sorrowful cries behind their backs weren't worth mentioning to outsiders. After Xiaohua sent Kai Wuxia's body back to Luoyang, he was finally able to settle one of the things that had been weighing on his mind. For the next 10 days or so, he quietly cultivated in a small, secluded building in the Kai clan's manor. He didn't even take half a step out of the small building. Moreover, during these 10 days, his cultivation had made very clear progress. Cultivators of my generation are the most heaven-defying. Every action of mine is seen by the heavenly Tao. As long as there's the slightest mistake, an inner demon will be born. I promised Kai Wuxia that I would bring her body back to the Kai clan in Luoyang, so I was investigated by the heavenly Tao. If I didn't fulfill my promise, then there would be fetters in my heart. These fetters would become an obstacle to my cultivation, obstructing my cultivation. I did what I promised, so these obstacles disappeared. My cultivation was as smooth as flowing water. Whatever people do, the heavens are watching. Xiao Hua's comprehension of the heavenly Tao could be considered a small gain. At this moment, without a teacher, he had a little understanding of the karma caused by his words and actions. My heart was originally towards the bright moon, but the bright moon shines on the ditch. Xiao Hua released his special perception. Although it couldn't see the surroundings of the small building like his divine sense, he could clearly sense the positions of the Kai clan's fourth-layer disciples. The Kai clan's disciples have increased by 2 compared to a few days ago. I'm afraid Kai Wuxia's funeral is coming to an end. I also have to make a choice. Should I give it to Kai Haisong or not? Forget it. Either way, it belongs to the Kai clan. What's the point of me holding on to it? Doesn't it matter who I give it to? If I think too much about it, it'll affect my cultivation. Xiao Hua threw away the last trace of hesitation and closed his eyes to comprehend the heavenly Tao. At the same time, he activated the blood shadow technique and drove his meridians to continue cultivating the dragon transformation art. The dragon transformation art was truly mysterious. Although the meridians in Xiao Hua's body had not been completely refined by him, and there were even many meridians that Xiao Hua did not know about, when Xiao Hua was cultivating the dragon transformation art, he could faintly sense the existence of those meridians. He could even tell that although he didn't know and couldn't control those meridians, the dragon transformation art was still operating in those meridians. Of course, the dragon transformation art was a cultivation method used to transform into a dragon. The amount of time and effort required was far from what a low-level qi refining cultivator like Xiao Hua could understand. Although Xiao Hua had been cultivating diligently for nearly a year, and the dragon transformation art was also progressing bit by bit, he couldn't see any particularly obvious results in a short period of time. In the blink of an eye, several days passed. On this day, Xiao Hua just held a fire-type spirit stone in his hand and was about to draw energy into his body when he heard a series of footsteps. Xiao Hua opened his eyes and put away the spirit stone. His posture didn't change as he calmly looked at the door. Pang pang. Several knocks sounded on the door and Kai Haisong's voice sounded, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, I have something to see you about." "Senior Kai, please come in," Xiao Hua replied. The door creaked. Kai Haisong, Kai Hasong, and the others all stood at the door with miserable expressions. Xiao Hua stood up and cupped his hands. "Seniors, please come in. Fellow Taoist Xiao is really hardworking. In these few days, you've actually been cultivating. I really admire you," Kai Haisong and the others said in a deep voice as they entered the room. "I don't dare. Junior is a loose cultivator and can only cultivate bitterly. Otherwise, there's no way out," Xiao Hua replied. Everyone sat down. Kai Hasong said, "Today is the day of Wuxia's funeral. I don't know if fellow Taoist Xiao has time to go see Wuxia again?" Hearing this, Xiao Hua also sighed and nodded. "There's no need for Senior Kai to remind me. I will definitely go. Fellow Taoist Xiao has been extremely benevolent to my Kai family. My Kai family also has nothing to repay you. If fellow Taoist Xiao has any requests, feel free to state them. Kai Haisong looked at the few clan brothers beside him and said, "That's right, fellow Taoist Xiao, if you don't mind, you can also join my Kai family. Not to mention other things, Kai family's cultivation techniques can also be taught to fellow Taoist." Kai Fengsong echoed. Xiao Hua had a smile on his face.
He bowed and said, "Many thanks for Senior Kai's kindness."
Junior admits that his aptitude is lacking and does not dare to drag down Kai family's reputation. Then, Wuxia's storage pouch. Kai Shansong couldn't help but ask. "Seniors, rest assured. Since I have promised something, I will definitely do it. After I pay my respects to fellow Taoist Kai, I will hand over the storage pouch to Senior Kai." Xiao Hua's gaze fell on Kai Haisong. "However, I will bring fellow Taoist Kai's body and storage pouch to the Kai family. Fellow Taoist Kai has also promised Junior some things. When the time comes, I ask Senior Kai too." Seeing this, Kai Haisong clapped his hands and praised, "Fellow Taoist Zhao's righteousness, my Kai family will never forget it. This is only a small matter. Since Wuxia made a promise, it will be the same as I made a promise." Only now did Kai Haisong's heart drop. Since Xiao Hua has raised the conditions, then everything will be easy to handle. "I don't dare. Senior Kai, please lead the way. Junior will see fellow Taoist Kai for the last time." Xiao Hua stood up and said. Kai Wuxia's mourning hall was located in a corner of the manor. A blue stone coffin was placed in the center of the mourning hall. Dozens of Kai family's women, children, and disciples were all dressed in mourning clothes as they silently stood around the coffin. Xiao Hua sighed and walked to the front of the blue stone coffin. He saw that Kai Wuxia's body had already been tidied up. She had changed into a beautiful set of clothes. Her fine black hair was bundled up on top of her head like clouds. Her jade-like face had thin black eyebrows and long eyelashes. She looked as if she was sleeping soundly. It seemed like the Kai Wuxia Xiao Hua was familiar with was a completely different person. "Fellow Taoist Kai, you have such a beautiful face. Yet why did you practice some kind of appearance-changing technique? Could it be that you don't want people to judge people by their appearance?" Xiao Hua said inwardly, "But, in this world, not to mention mortals, even cultivators mostly judge people by their appearance. Your way of doing things. What meaning is there in it?" As Xiao Hua thought this, he retreated a few steps and bowed deeply towards Kai Wuxia's coffin. The Kai family's women standing beside Kai Wuxia's coffin also bowed in return. Just when Xiao Hua wanted to open his mouth to say something, the entire mourning hall suddenly became silent. It was as if everyone's head had turned towards the entrance of the mourning hall. Chapter 1460. Xiao Hua sensed that there was something strange outside the mourning hall and turned his head along with everyone else. Xiao Hua's gaze fell on a tall and slender woman dressed in plain Taoist robes who was about 30 meters away from the mourning hall, slowly walking over. The woman's black hair was tied up at the top of her head with a jade hairpin. Long strands of black hair fluttered behind her head like a fluttering ponytail. Looking at the woman's fair and jade-like face, it was exactly the shape of a melon seed. She had a smooth forehead, a sharp chin, and two willow leaf-like eyebrows. At this moment, her beautiful eyes were filled with sorrow. She had a slightly erect nose, and her small cherry-like lips were tightly clenched by her pearly white teeth. A row of faint white teeth marks fell on her lips, gradually suffusing the color of blood. It was dusk, and the sun was setting in the west. Behind the woman, she looked as if she had walked out of a blood-red sunset. The color of blood dyed the woman's Taoist robe red. The color of blood reflected the woman's lustrous white skin, revealing a peach blossom red. It was truly enchanting. Red Dawn Fairy. Although Xiao Hua had never seen Red Dawn Fairy before, this was the first time he saw her. Then, Xiao Hua's gaze fell on a red beauty mark the size of a mung bean on the left side of Red Dawn Fairy's mouth. Boom! Xiao Hua's mind went blank. Dream, Xiao Hua could not help but moan softly. Faced with everyone's gazes, Red Dawn Fairy turned a deaf ear. Her eyes were fixed on Kai Wuxia's green stone coffin. There were no words on the mourning hall, and no one told her who was in the coffin. But she knew, it was Kai Wuxia. Step by step, she stepped on the soil, and then the grass. Kai Wuxia's heart was heavy, and her footsteps were steady. When she reached the morning hall, Kai Haisong and the rest hurried to greet her. Seeing that Red Dawn Fairy had already reached Qi Refining Level 10, Kai Haisong and the rest were shocked. Red Dawn. You've really reached Qi Refining Level 10? Only now did Fairy Xia's gaze move away from Kai Wuxia's coffin. She looked at Kai Haisong and smiled bleakly.
She bowed and said, "Daughter greets father. Thanks to father and sister, I've finally reached the 10th level of Qi Refining."
Good. Kai Haisong didn't know why, but he suddenly felt sorrow in his heart. A teardrop flowed out of his eyes, but he clenched his teeth and held it back.
Closing his eyes for a moment, he waved his hand and said, "You, go take another look at your sister. Today is the day of her funeral."
Elder sister. Fairy Xianxia could no longer hold it in. 2 streams of tears flowed down her delicate cheeks as she quickly walked over to Kai Wuxia's coffin. Fairy Xianxia reached out and held Kai Wuxia's cold hand. Looking at the face that she had known since childhood, the countless words in her heart were stuck in her throat. After a long while, Fairy Xianxia turned her head and asked, "Father, who brought Big Sister's body back? How did she die?" "Oh, Wuxia's body was brought back by fellow Taoist Xiao. Fellow Taoist Xiao has already told me everything. After you pay your respects, father will tell you everything in detail." Kai Haisong pointed at Xiao Hua. At this moment, Xiao Hua woke up from his shock and looked at Fairy Xianxia, not knowing what to do. Fairy Xianxia didn't care about Xiao Hua's gaze and bowed. "Many thanks for fellow Taoist Xiao's righteousness. If it's convenient, I would like to ask fellow Taoist Xiao to stay for a few more days. I would like to ask clearly." Xiao Hua hurriedly bowed and said, It's fine. If fellow Taoist Xiao has any questions, feel free to ask. And then fellow Taoist Xiao, please go and rest first. After I'm done with Big Sister's matter, I would like to pay you a visit." Kai Wuxia said with a forced smile. "All right, fellow Taoist Kai, please." Xiao Hua bowed and walked out of the morning hall. Under the guidance of the Kai family disciples, he frowned and walked back to the small building. This Fairy Xianxia. This should be the first time I've seen her, right? Although her face is devastatingly beautiful, she is also unfamiliar to me. But why do I feel a sense of familiarity when I see her? Dream. Who is that? Is it a female cultivator? Xiao Hua walked all the way but still couldn't figure it out. After entering the small building, he didn't have the mood to cultivate. He walked to the second floor and looked at the setting sun in the west. There was still a trace of red in the sky, and he was in a daze. Slowly, Xiao Hua seemed to enter a mysterious state. His entire mind was like the heavenly Tao that was immersed in space. It wanted to escape from his body, but after flying a few times, it seemed like it couldn't leave his body. Right in front of his chest, where his Dantian was, and where his Naiwan palace was, there seemed to be 2 incomparably huge objects that were firmly suppressing them. And in the few moments when Xiao Hua's mind tried to escape from his body, the meridians in his body also seemed to be itching to give it a try. They actually had the intention of swimming. The dragon transformation art was actually circulating on its own without Xiao Hua's consciousness. Fellow Taoist Xiao. What seemed like an instant or a long time, Xiao Hua's dazed state was awakened by a voice. Fairy Xianxia? Xiao Hua's mind and body were in sync. He instantly woke up and looked around. It was already deep into the night. The bright moon in the sky sprinkled its brilliance on the small building, on Xiao Hua's body, and even on the ground below the small building. Fairy Xianxia was standing on the ground, looking up at Xiao Hua. See. Seeing Fairy Xia's appearance, Xiao Hua couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Fairy Xianxia was already incomparably beautiful under the twilight. Under the moonlight, she could only be described as overshadowing the moon and putting the flowers to shame. Fellow Taoist Kai, may I enter? Fairy Xia's voice was a little hoarse, but it sounded very pleasant, like the rustling sound of the wind in a bamboo forest. Fellow Taoist Kai, please. Xiao Hua calmed his mind and said softly. Many thanks, fellow Taoist. Fairy Xia's figure flew up to the second floor. She cupped her hands and said, It's already late. Sorry for disturbing fellow Taoist I. No worries. I also have a lot on my mind. I can't sleep or cultivate. Fellow Taoist's visit is also a coincidence.
Xiao Hua sighed.
In that case, I would like to hear how fellow Taoist met Ai's elder sister and how Ai's elder sister passed away.
Fairy Xianxia said faintly.
Yes, this is what I wanted to tell fellow Taoist.
Xiao Hua looked around.
However, before I tell you, I would like to ask the surrounding Kai family disciples to go back and rest.
Well said.
Fairy Xianxia waved her hand and transmitted her voice. You all can go back first.
Yes.
The dozen or so disciples all responded and left separately. Can fellow Taoist speak now?
Fairy Xianxia asked softly.
Actually, it's nothing much.
Most of the things
I have already told Senior Kai. Xiao Hua thought for a while and slowly told Fairy Xianxia everything that had to do with Kai Wuxia, starting from when he first met her. However, Xiao Hua hesitated a few times about Li Zongbao and Ling Zhengyi. In the end, he didn't say anything. After all, the Utopia faction and the Misty Mountain were not people that the Kai family could afford to offend.
The less they knew, the less danger they would be in.
Oh, Fairy Xianxia looked at the gradually white sky and said softly, I didn't expect fellow Taoist Xiao to have such a deep relationship with my elder sister. I think my elder sister must have.
Don't.
Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand and said hurriedly, Fairy Xianxia, please don't say that. I know what fellow Taoist is thinking about. This person is someone else. Just like the place where fellow Taoist Kai passed away. It's a taboo. If I can't get the approval of that person, I wouldn't dare to say anything. Fairy Xia's beautiful eyes widened. Could it be? Fellow Taoist Kai, just remember that I don't have that kind of relationship with your elder sister. Xiao Hua hurriedly explained.
Fellow Taoist, I understand.
Fairy Xia looked at Xiao Hua differently. If fellow Taoist Xiao isn't that person, then fellow Taoist, I admire your righteousness even more. I wouldn't dare. Fellow Taoist Kai also took care of I. I promised her one last thing. How could I not do it?
Xiao Hua said sincerely. I heard from father that elder sister's storage bag.
Fairy Xia asked hesitantly. That's right. Fellow Taoist Kai asked I to hand it to you personally. She also has some things to tell you personally. Xiao Hua nodded. He looked around and said, if it's convenient, please find a quiet place to talk.
Okay.
Seeing Xiao Hua's solemn expression, Fairy Xia said, then follow I to the place where I secluded myself. Fairy Xia's secluded cultivation place was not within the manor. It was far away on a small mountain that was connected to the Yang Cauldron Mountain. After entering the cave, there was a sweet fragrance in the spacious and clean cave. Xiao Hua could not help but take a few deep breaths. After Fairy Xia opened the cave's restriction, he raised his hand and said, Fellow Taoist Xiao, please take a seat. This is the place where my Kai family's senior secluded herself. The restriction of the cave is quite powerful. If fellow Taoist has any secrets, feel free to tell me.
Okay.
Xiao Hua sat cross-legged on the futon. He took out the storage bag from his sleeves and handed it over. This is fellow Taoist Kai's storage bag. Fairy Xia, please keep it well. Seeing the familiar storage bag, Fairy Xia's eyes could not help but redden. She reached out and took it. She opened it sadly. After all, these were Kai Wuxia's belongings. How could she not think of her when she looked at them? However, when Fairy Xia saw the contents of the storage bag, she was dumbfounded. After a long while she raised her head in shock and said, Fellow Taoist Xiao, is this my elder sister's belongings? Xiao Hua nodded solemnly. This is indeed fellow Taoist Zhao's storage bag. The items inside are also fellow Taoist Zhao's. I'm sure fellow Taoist Xia understands your elder sister's painstaking efforts. You should also understand why I want to hand this over to fellow Taoist.
This.
Dozens of Peiyuan pill, hundreds of marrow cleansing pills, dozens of foundation establishment pills, so many rare yellow talismans, hundreds and thousands of supreme-grade spirit stones, and so many miscellaneous items. These are all priceless. Fairy Xia was still in shock. She continued to stammer and say incoherently, Elder sister, where did you get them from? Chapter 1461. Hearing Fairy Xia's question, Xiao Hua did not answer directly. Instead, he continued, "The items left behind by your sister are not all in this storage bag." What else is there? Fairy Xia's eyes flashed with surprise. There is also a set of embryonic breathing pills. Currently, Xuanyan's sect is still asking for help to refine it. As for how many there are, I do not know. I can only give it to you after half a year when I retrieve it. Embryonic breathing pills? Hearing this, Fairy Xia's eyes were filled with joy. However, she bit her lips and asked incredulously, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, I do not understand. These items, although they cannot be compared to all of an aristocratic family, they are not too far off. Fellow Taoist, why do you not have any greed in your heart? Fellow Taoist has brought back my sister's body. My Kai family is already grateful to you. You only need to return the items that my sister normally uses to my Kai family in the storage bag. These items, who would know? Who would investigate if fellow Taoist took them?" Xiao Hua shook his head and said, "Others may not know, but I know. The heavens know, the earth knows, and my conscience knows. Although this penniless Taoist is an itinerant cultivator and lacks these things, this penniless Taoist will definitely take what belongs to this penniless Taoist. This penniless Taoist will definitely not take what does not belong to this penniless Taoist or should not belong to this penniless Taoist. Whatever one does, the heavens are watching. Good, whatever one does, the heavens are watching." Fairy Xia clapped her hands and praised. A strange glow appeared on her face. "Actually, fellow Taoist Xiao, does your storage bag have the same items?" Fairy Xia stared at Xiao Hua for a moment and suddenly asked. "This?" Xiao Hua's face was slightly red. He nodded and said, "To be honest, Fairy Xia, that is exactly the case." Fellow Taoist Xiao, you don't need to call me Fairy. If you don't mind, you can just call me fellow Taoist Xia." Fairy Xia pursed her lips and said, "Actually, fellow Taoist Xiao has said so much. It seems that only at 1,000 feet peak can we obtain these items. Although fellow Taoist Xiao did not say it in detail and I do not wish to ask, I can guess." Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. "I said too much." Fellow Taoist Xiao didn't say much. In fact, even if fellow Taoist didn't say anything, any cultivator who saw you return so many things without keeping anything would think that fellow Taoist Xiao has more things than these. Isn't that right, fellow Taoist? Looking at Fairy Xia's bright and spirited eyes, Xiao Hua's gaze flickered as he whispered, "Fairy Xia, fellow Taoist, your sister's actions are magnanimous and her character is elegant. I felt that the Kai family must be different from ordinary cultivation families, so I didn't think too much about it. Sigh, fellow Taoist Xiao is truly adorable." After Fairy Xia finished speaking, she suddenly felt that there was something wrong with her words. Her face started to heat up unnaturally. Xiao Hua scratched his head and said, "Fellow Taoist Xia, what do you mean? We only know our own business." Needless to say, even this poor Taoist's heart warmed when he saw it, let alone others. "Sigh, Big Sister asked you to personally hand this storage pouch over to I. I guess this is what she meant." Fairy Xia said faintly. "Oh, that's right." Xiao Hua's forehead was suddenly covered in sweat. Thinking about it carefully, if he really handed this thing over to Kai Haisong, there might not be any accidents. Fortunately, I don't have to use these things to test my impression of the Kai family, Xiao Hua thought to himself. "All right, fellow Taoist, since you returned the storage pouch, my big sister would not give you any benefits, right?" Fairy Xia asked softly. "Is it our Kai family's heirloom cultivation technique?" Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He raised his head and looked at Fairy Xia calmly and whispered, "What if your sister promised I? Is the Kai family's cultivation technique?" Fairy Xia smiled faintly and said firmly, "What big sister promised is also what the Kai family promised. Of course I will give it to you." "But fellow Taoist Xia doesn't seem to be the family head," Xiao Hua asked with interest. "I'm not the clan leader, but I'm still at the 10th level of chi refining, right?" Fairy Xia was about to explain, but when she saw the smile in Xiao Hua's eyes, she immediately came to a realization. The corner of her mouth slanted and she said with a smile,
Looks like fellow Taoist is teasing me.
As soon as the word teasing left her mouth, Fairy Xia's face turned red again. Isn't this word a bit too sensitive? Xiaohua also noticed the blush on Fairy Xia's face. He couldn't help but think of the day when Wuxia wanted to introduce him to Fairy Xia. His heart trembled slightly, and he felt extremely regretful. Then he immediately calmed down and said, "Fellow Taoist Xia, don't be afraid. Your sister only promised you a cultivation technique that can cover your face." "Oh, so it's the stealing the sky sun technique that big sister has been cultivating since she was young." Fairy Xia heaved a sigh of relief. She turned around and took out a small booklet and handed it to Xiaohua, saying, "This cultivation technique is not passed down in my Kai family. It was obtained by my ancestor when he was young. Giving it to fellow Taoist Xiao is suitable."
"Many thanks, fellow Taoist Xia."
Xiaohua was overjoyed. He took the booklet, but looking at this booklet with no cover and no end, Xiaohua was a bit stunned. Oh, the name Stealing the Sky Sun was given by Big Sister herself. This is a nameless cultivation technique. The incantation is obscure and difficult to understand. I looked at it for a long time but did not gain any insights. Only Big Sister seems to have an affinity with this cultivation technique. However, I heard Big Sister say that she only comprehended the first 2 pages of this booklet. There are still many pages in the back that she could not comprehend at all.
So it's like this.
Xiaohua smiled and kept the booklet in his storage bag. Fairy Xia clapped her hands and took out a dark green jade pendant from her storage bag.
She handed it over and said with a smile, "This is I's token.
Please accept it. If there is news about the embryonic breathing pill, fellow Taoist can bring the token to me." As she spoke, Fairy Xia's cheeks blushed a little more. In that delicate white skin, it was delicate and beautiful. Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He reached out and took the jade pendant. The jade pendant was warm and didn't seem like it was taken out from a storage bag. After keeping the jade pendant, Xiaohua scratched his head and took out a 1,000-mile sound transmission talisman. He injected his magic power and handed it over. "This is I's sound transmission talisman. If fellow Taoist has any matters, you can call me at any time." What matters could a Qi refining stage level 10 cultivator have with a Qi refining stage level 4 loose cultivator?
However, Fairy Xia still accepted it solemnly.
"Oh right, I still have something to tell you. I almost forgot to say it." Xiaohua suddenly slapped his forehead and said hurriedly, "There is a bamboo token in the storage bag. That was given to fellow Taoist by your big sister." Without waiting for Xiaohua to finish, Fairy Xia's face changed. She raised her head and looked outside. At the same time, a faint spiritual sense passed through the Kai family's cultivation cave and swept over Xiaohua and Fairy Xia. Fairy Xia's face was like ice. She scolded in a low voice. That faint spiritual will swept across Xiaohua and Fairy Xia, and immediately locked onto Xiaohua. Although Fairy Xia was already a Qi refining stage level 10 cultivator, she still did not have a spiritual sense. The reason why she could sense the intruder was because the intruder's spiritual sense had broken through the cave's restriction. "Little girl, this elder is here. Why aren't you two coming out to welcome me?"
An arrogant voice came from mid-air, as if it was speaking beside the two's ears.
"Grand Elder?" Fairy Xia heard the voice and her face changed slightly. She looked at Xiaohua and said in a low voice, "This is Qingyang Kai family's Kai Hongfeng, Grand Elder Kai. He is an early foundation establishment stage cultivator and is a famous expert of the Kai family. The old man is usually cultivating on Qingyang Mountain. Why is he here at Luyang? Kai family's Grand Elder?" Xiaohua heard and his face turned pale.
Fairy Xia did not know why, but how could he not know?
"Fellow Taoist Xiao. You." Fairy Xia noticed the change in Xiaohua's face and asked in surprise, "Could it be?" Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and raised his head to look at the ceiling of the cave abode.
The divine sense had been locked onto him, making it impossible for him to escape.
"Fellow Taoist Xia, let's go out. This is a matter between I and Qingyang Kai family. It has nothing to do with Luyang Kai family. It's better if fellow Taoist does not know."
"I see." Fairy Xia bit her lips and nodded. "Fellow Taoist, please follow I." Fairy Xia saw that Xiaohua did not relent and knew that this was not an easy matter.
She had no choice but to open the cave abode's restriction. The two of them flew into mid-air. At this time, the sky was already bright. A red sun was shooting out from the clouds in the distance. In mid-air, an old man dressed in a Taoist robe with white hair and a youthful face stood arrogantly with his hands behind his back. Beside the old man was a furious Xianxia who was staring at Xiaohua who had just flown up. In front of the old man, Kai Haisong, Kai Fengsong and the rest were already standing respectfully. The other young disciples of the Kai family were standing respectfully on the ground, looking at the sky with admiration. Grand Elder, it's this guy. He's Xiaohua. He colluded with Luyang's Kai Wuxia to frame my sister. Kai Wuxia did not wait for Xiaohua to fly up and said impatiently, not only did this Luyang Kai family not help our Qingyang Kai family to kill the main culprit, but they colluded with him. How could they put our Qingyang Kai family in their eyes? Grand Elder, please kill him to establish your might. Wuxia, what are you saying? Kai Haifeng was shocked and said anxiously, my Wuxia went out to travel 3 years ago and has not returned. A few days ago, this fellow Taoist Xiao brought back bad news. Wuxia had already died and her body was brought back to our Kai family. What you said? Fellow Taoist Xiao did not mention a word. Kai Wuxia deserved to die. He colluded with Xiaohua. Kai Wuxia scolded angrily. Unfortunately, before she could finish, Fairy Xianxia raised her eyebrows and scolded, Kai Wuxia, shut the hell up. Not to mention that my elder sister is no longer in this world. Your filthy words are a disgrace to her reputation. Moreover, all the seniors are here. What right do you have to speak? You dare to scold me? Kai Wuxia was furious and almost jumped up. Shut up, Kai Hongfeng's face darkened and scolded. Kai Wuxia has indeed passed away. The dead should be respected. Let's go pay our respects. Chapter 1462. Kai Wuxia's body was supposed to be buried yesterday, but because Fairy Xianxia came out of seclusion, it was delayed for a day. Kai Hongfeng scanned with his divine sense and knew that Fairy Xianxia's words were true. Why should I? Kai Wuxia was flustered and exasperated. She wanted to say something, but when she saw Kai Hongfeng's frosty face and his descending figure, she could only grit her teeth and fly down. Kai Haisong and the others looked at each other, then at Fairy Xianxia and Xiaohua. They opened their mouths, not knowing whether to ask. Father, let's go down too. Fairy Xianxia pursed her lips and looked at the two people in front of her. No one knew what she was thinking, but she waved her hand and said. At this time, Fairy Xiaoxia's cultivation was already at Qi refining stage 10, slightly higher than Kai Haisong and the others. Her words carried weight in the Kai family, and now they were even more powerful. Kai Haisong sighed, his eyes filled with regret, and landed on the ground. Xiaohua coldly looked at Kai Hongfeng's behavior. He was somewhat conflicted in his heart. At this moment, he actually had the intention to escape. However, Kai Hongfeng's divine sense had been locked onto him. He wasn't sure if he could outrun an early-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Moreover, he had killed Kai Xianxia in the Huanhua sect selection, so he was protected by the rules of the Huanhua sect selection. Xiaohua still hoped that Kai Hongfeng would have misgivings about the Huanhua sect and let him live, but he was afraid that he would anger Kai Hongfeng if he escaped. And if he did not explain things clearly, Kai Wuxia would definitely vent her anger on the Kai family. Wouldn't he cause trouble for them? After thinking for a moment, Xiaohua secretly held a yellow talisman in one hand and a top-grade spirit stone in the other, and flew down with the others. Although Fairy Xianxia was walking in front, she also turned her head and looked at Xiaohua with a complicated expression. Kai Wuxia's coffin was still in the morning hall, but the lid had been sealed. Kai Hongfeng did not ask anyone to open the coffin. He walked to the front of the coffin and bowed slightly as a greeting. Kai Wuxia gritted her teeth and bowed half as a greeting. After the Kai family disciples returned the greeting, Kai Hongfeng turned his head and said with a smile, I'm sure nephew Kai is still confused about why I'm here? Kai Haisong smiled apologetically and said, I really don't know. What Xiaohua said just now is also the first time this nephew has heard it. This old man believes in you. No matter what, you are still a nephew of my Kai family. You would never do something like betray your master and betray your ancestors. Yes, please take a seat in the hall here,
No need, just stay here. Although Wuxia has already passed away, she was still involved in this matter after all. Letting her listen at the side can also make some people have some misgivings. Kai Hongfeng glanced at Xiao Hua. Yes, I'll listen to Grand Elder's instructions.
Kai Haisong responded.
He called over the disciples of his family to set up the tables and chairs, and served up spirit fruits and spirit tea.
All right, Xiao Hua, tell me, why did you harm my Kai family's nephew?
Kai Hongfeng narrowed his eyes and asked.
Senior Kai, please know that this junior did not intentionally harm Kai Xianxia's life.
Xiao Hua took half a step forward in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing as he cupped his hands and said,
Hee, you killed my Kai family's nephew and you dare say it wasn't intentional? Then it's normal for me to kill you. Kai Hongfeng released his pressure, causing Xiao Hua's heart to tremble, almost unable to stand. Forcefully clenching his teeth, Xiao Hua smiled apologetically and said, Please allow this junior to explain. Speak, Kai Hongfeng said coldly. Thus, Xiao Hua narrated the matter of him and Kai Wuxia participating in the Huanhua sect selection in full detail. Previously, when he told the Kai family, he did not mention Kai Wuxia and Kai Xianxia. Now he explained everything clearly. Hearing this, Hongxia Fairy's face was gloomy. How could she not know Kai Wuxia and Kai Xianxia's intentions? Fortunately, Xiao Hua's luck was good, and his cultivation was also outstanding, so he did not die unjustly. With your cultivation? How could you be a match for me and Xianxia? If you didn't pull Kai Wuxia as a helper, how could you kill Xianxia? Kai Wuxia glanced at Kai Hongfeng, who was frowning slightly, and immediately shouted. Xiao Hua stared at Kai Wuxia for a long time and said in a deep voice, I don't know how fellow Kai deceived Senior Kai. However, since we are all participating in the Huanhua sect selection in the back mountain, according to the rules, we are responsible for our own life and death. Regardless of whether I cooperated with fellow Kai Wuxia or not, we were still protected by the rules of the Huanhua sect. If fellow Kai revealed this matter and the Huanhua sect found out, I'm afraid there would be endless trouble in the future. As expected, Kai Wuxia was somewhat anxious. How could she tell Kai Hongfeng the truth?
If she was really in the right, she was afraid that the one who came now would not be the great elder who usually doted on her, but the many disciples of the Kai family in Qingyang. However, she did not expect that great elder Kai Hongfeng would actually give Xiao Hua a chance to speak, and not kill Xiao Hua as soon as they arrived in Luoyang.
In fact, Kai Hongfeng was also secretly complaining in his heart. He originally thought the same as Kai Wuxia, that a fourth-layer qi refining individual cultivator would be like squashing an ant. However, he was a bit puzzled. Xiao Hua and Kai Wuxia, one of them was a fourth-layer qi refining cultivator, while the other was a fifth-layer qi refining cultivator. They should not be Kai Wuxia's and Kai Xianxia's opponents. Kai Wuxia only said that she was ambushed by the two of them, which puzzled him. Secondly, he scanned the area with his divine sense and found that Xiao Hua was actually in the Kai family in Luoyang with Fairy Xianxia. Moreover, Kai Wuxia's coffin was placed in the mourning hall, which was not in the information he received. Therefore, he asked a few more questions, but it was precisely because of these few questions that he brought the Huanhua sect into the picture. This matter was neither big nor small. If the Huanhua sect were to take it seriously, they would be giving the other party face, and it was possible that they would destroy the Kai family in Qingyang. After pondering for a moment, Kai Hongfeng said, Wuxia has her reasons for what she said, and Xiao Hua has his reasons for what he said. I can't listen to Wuxia, and I can't listen to Xiao Hua either. Bad. Xiao Hua's heart turned cold. Sure enough, Kai Hongfeng said coldly, since the reputation of the Kai family's nephew has been ruined by Xiao Hua's hands, I will take half a step back and only cripple Xiao Hua's cultivation, but not take his life. Wait. Great Elder. As soon as Kai Hongfeng finished speaking, Fairy Xianxia stepped forward and bowed. In our cultivation, the most important thing is to cultivate the heart. If we do not have a clear conscience, there is no hope for the great Tao in this life. What Xiao Hua said is true, and Sister Wuxia also participated in the Huanhua sect's disciple selection. Since Great Elder is unable to judge, why don't we go to the Huanhua sect and ask? Xianxia, you are helping an outsider. Kai Hongfeng said coldly, I have already spared Xiao Hua's life, are you not satisfied? I dare not. Xianxia is only a junior,
and I dare not do anything that goes against the Kai family. I only feel that in this world, there is always a reason, and there is only one truth for everything. If Great Elder really wants to get to the bottom of it, and find the real reason for Sister Xianxia's death. If I don't want to find the reason, what reason? If I just want to seek justice? Xianxia, is your Luyang Kai family going to protect this little rogue cultivator? Kai Hongfeng coldly interrupted Fairy Xia's words. This. Fairy Xia looked at Xiao Hua, then looked at the anxious Kai Haisong, and hesitated. However, when she saw Kai Wuxia's bluestone coffin, her eyes flashed with a trace of determination, and she said with a sad smile, "How can I, a little girl, make the decision for the Kai family of Luyang?" "It's just that." Xiao Hua, who was standing at the side, heard this and his heart warmed. He interrupted Fairy Xia and smiled. "Fairy Xia, I only said half of it, and there is still the other half." "Fairy Xia, please wait for I to finish. It won't be too late to continue." Fairy Xia was stunned, and her two big eyes blinked a few times. Puzzled, she said. Then, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, please continue." Okay, Xiao Hua cleared his throat and told her what happened in the Huanhua sect's main hall. He then smiled and said, "Do you think that boy is lucky? The penultimate good fate token of the Huanhua sect is the one with the bamboo engraved on it. He actually got it, and he even found a gold core stage cultivator to be his master. If a cultivator gets the last good fate token, won't they be able to enter the sect of a nascent soul stage cultivator?" Boom. Fairy Xia's mind went blank. Her heart was the same as Kai Wuxia's that day. There were only 3 words in her heart: good fate token, good fate token, good fate token. A voice came from the bottom of Fairy Xia's heart. "I actually got the last good fate token of the Huanhua sect." An ice-cold feeling spread from her skin to her heart. That was extreme excitement and extreme surprise. Her pair of beautiful eyes stared motionlessly at Xiao Hua, not looking at her eyes. She really couldn't imagine, this Xiao Hua. How could he be so magnanimous, to actually hand over the good fate tablet that would allow her to enter the Huanhua sect so easily? If he had it, wouldn't he have entered the Huanhua sect long ago? Who would be afraid of this Kai Hongfeng who wanted to take his life? He has the good fate token, that's his luck. How could a small rogue cultivator like you have this kind of luck? Kai Wuxia sneered. "You're talking about this matter. Could it be that you're waiting for some helper? Hee, your helper is already lying in a coffin, unable to protect you anymore." "Is that so?" Xiao Hua raised his eyebrows and sneered. "Even if there's no helper, I can easily kill you." While speaking, Xiao Hua's body suddenly rushed forward, his fist aimed at Kai Wuxia's neck. Kai Wuxia already knew that Xiao Hua's movements were fast, so she was already prepared. However, Xiao Hua was really too fast, and she relied on Kai Hongfeng behind her, so she still slacked a bit. Just this bit of slack was enough for Xiao Hua to grab Kai Wuxia's neck. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua still underestimated the divine ability of a foundation establishment cultivator. Although Kai Hongfeng was only in the early stage of foundation establishment, his cultivation was definitely not something that Xiao Hua could imagine. Xiao Hua's fist had just touched Kai Wuxia's skin when a cold snort came, as if it was echoing in Xiao Hua's mind. Xiao Hua's extended arm could no longer move forward even half an inch. Xiao Hua was waiting for this opportunity. When his right arm couldn't move, Xiao Hua's other hand had already poured magic power into the yellow talisman. At this moment, he turned his hand over, and with a flash of brilliance, Xiao Hua's body sank into the ground. Chapter 1463. Trying to escape? How can there be such an easy thing? Kai Hongfeng sneered. His figure straightened slightly, his divine sense still locked onto Xiao Hua. It was unknown what divine ability Kai Hongfeng used, but Xiao Hua's hand was stuck on Kai Wuxia's neck, unable to move at all. "If this young master wants to leave, can you stop me?" Xiao Hua also sneered. That arm of his forcefully pulled back. Kacha! Kacha! A series of crisp sounds rang out. The brilliance shattered like glass. Xiao Hua's arm actually broke the restriction that Kai Hongfeng had casually laid down. Ouch! Kai Hongfeng was shocked and unconsciously stood up. However, Just as Kai Hongfeng stood up, Xiao Hua's figure once again sank into the ground, disappearing. Very good. It's just as Wuxia said. This old man's judgment was still somewhat off. Kai Hongfeng also slapped his hand, and an Earth Escape talisman was placed on his body. His figure flashed, and he was about to escape into the ground. Disciples of the Kai family, quickly assist the Great Elder. Don't let Xiao Hua escape from our Kai family manor. Kai Haisong shouted from the side. Yes. Not only the disciples, but Kai Hasong and the rest also flew up, and flew out of the morning hall. En, hearing Kai Haisong's order, Kai Hongfeng nodded slightly, and then disappeared into the ground. Wuxia, you wait in the morning hall for a moment. With my Kai family disciples here, that Xiao Hua definitely won't dare to come out. After Kai Haisong finished speaking, he turned to Fairy Xianxia and said, Xiao Hua is after all an outsider. Wuxia and Great Elder are the true descendants of our Kai family. You stay here and protect Wuxia. Don't let that bastard Xiao Hua succeed. Fairy Xianxia saw her father's enthusiasm, and she already understood. She nodded and said, I will listen to father's orders. Oh, what about the matter I asked you to do yesterday? I haven't reported it to father yet. Kai Haisong, who was flying in the air, casually turned around and asked. That matter, it's already done. Father, don't worry. I will report the details to father later. Fairy Xianxia nodded. And good. Kai Haisong smiled and said, Since that's the case, father can rest assured. After everyone had flown out of the morning hall, Fairy Xianxia cast a cold glance at Kai Wuxia. She walked to the side of Kai Wuxia's coffin and sat down cross-legged. Her eyes stared straight at the green stone coffin, and her gaze gradually became dazed. Kai Wuxia's face was a little pale. Xiao Hua's fist just now had really frightened her. She believed without a doubt that if that fist had landed on her neck, her pink and white neck would definitely have been broken into two. This Xiao Hua. Just who is he? Is he really a rogue cultivator? Kai Wuxia thought to herself. She wanted to get closer to Fairy Xianxia, but she felt that it was inappropriate. Sitting on that chair was like sitting on pins and needles. At this moment, Xiao Hua, who was bitterly hated by Kai Wuxia, was also having an extremely hard time. Although he had burrowed into the ground ahead of time, Kai Hongfeng's divine sense had been locked onto him. No matter where he went, Kai Hongfeng's divine sense was like maggots that latched onto his bones. No matter what, he could not shake it off. What should I do? Xiao Hua immediately thought of the situation when he was being chased by heaven-shaking heaven. Suddenly, Xiao Hua's eyes lit up. He took out a flying talisman from the space and stuck it on his body. His figure quickly rushed towards the ground. Xiao Hua was frightened, afraid of being captured by Kai Hongfeng. Little did he know that Kai Hongfeng, who was chasing behind him, was even more shocked. Who is he? A Foundation Establishment Stage Senior. Who is Xiao Hua? A small rogue cultivator who had just reached Qi Refining Stage Level 4. Kai Hongfeng actually was unable to catch up to Xiao Hua even after using 50% of his dermic powers. This was simply a naked slap to the face. Fortunately, Kai Hongfeng's divine sense had been locked onto Xiao Hua, so he was not afraid that Xiao Hua could escape. This old man wants to see where you can escape to. Without waiting for Kai Hongfeng to think, he saw Xiao Hua actually flying towards the ground. This fellow. What is he trying to do? Could it be that he thinks he can fly faster than this old man? Kai Hongfeng secretly laughed. His figure also chased out. However, when he chased out of the ground, the Xiao Hua in his divine sense completely stunned him. Xiao Hua's flying speed in the air was much faster than when he was underground. If Kai Hongfeng still used 50% of his dermic powers, he really might not be able to catch up to Xiao Hua. Damn it! This fellow wants to go to the Sunrise Mountain Range. Seeing the direction Xiao Hua flew in, Kai Hongfeng cursed in his heart. He knew how powerful the Sunrise Mountain Range was. If he really let Xiao Hua fly in, he might not be able to catch him. Therefore, he did not care about being reserved and used 70% of his dermic powers. Like a flash of light, he flew towards Xiao Hua's figure. When Kai Hongfeng flew almost out of sight, Kai Haisong rushed over from afar. His face was filled with extreme shock as he looked into the distance. Big brother. Should we still chase after him?
Kai Hasong asked in a low voice.
This Xiao Hua is actually hiding his true strength. A small rogue cultivator of Qi refining stage level 4. Even I can easily kill him. Who would have thought that he could actually escape from the Great Elder?
Escape my ass. Kai Haisong scolded.
Quickly go. This is the time for our Luyang Kai family to assist the Great Elder.
How can we slack off?
Yes, this little brother understands. Kai Hasong and the others also used their dermic powers and chased after him from afar. At this moment, Xiao Hua had learned his lesson from the last escape. He held a flying talisman in one hand. The moment the flying talisman on his body lost its effect, he immediately used it again. In his space, there were still many flying talismans. Xiao Hua thought that flying to the Sunrise Mountain range would not be a problem. Xiao Hua's other hand held a top-grade spirit stone. While absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from the spirit stone, he silently used the raising fire to the heavens technique in his meridians to refine the spiritual energy that entered his body and replenish the consumed true qi. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua still underestimated a foundation establishment cultivator. Kai Hongfeng pushed his dermic powers to the 7th layer, and his flying speed was already a bit faster than Xiao Hua's. He was gradually shortening the distance between the two. Feeling Kai Hongfeng's divine sense lock onto him from strong to weak, and then from weak to strong, Xiao Hua knew in his heart that the situation was not good. However, he was incomparably clear in his heart that all of his dermic powers were child's play in the eyes of a foundation establishment cultivator. He could only rely on this unexpected flying secret technique. Even that secret technique of using strength to break through dermic powers could only be used when Kai Hongfeng was careless just now. He could no longer use it. After exchanging a few more flying talismans, the distance between Kai Hongfeng and Xiao Hua shortened by half. Xiao Hua clenched his teeth, took out an earth escape talisman, and once again escaped underground. He wanted to find a way to escape underground. Unfortunately, not long after, Xiao Hua jumped out from underground again. In this short period of time, Kai Hongfeng had actually caught up to him by a lot.
What do I do? What do I do?
Xiao Hua was somewhat alarmed. He felt that he was at the end of his rope. He felt that every inch Kai Hongfeng closed in on him was an inch closer to death. Dragon Transformation Art. Xiao Hua suddenly seemed to have grabbed onto a life-saving straw. He staked everything on a single throw and madly operated the Dragon Transformation Art. He mobilized all of the meridians in his body and rapidly refined the heaven and earth spiritual qi that was drawn into his body. Following the operation of the Dragon Transformation Art, Xiao Hua's flying speed suddenly increased by 2 notches.
Ha!
Kai Hongfeng was shocked and thoroughly angered. He no longer cared about face and restraint, and urged his dermic powers to the 8th layer. This level of dermic powers, Kai Hongfeng also hadn't used it for many years. Xiao Hua and Kai Hongfeng, one fleeing and one chasing. After a long time, Kai Hongfeng was already several tens of feet away from Xiao Hua. Haha, Xiao Hua, can you still escape? These several tens of feet was already the distance that Kai Hongfeng could use his dermic powers. Kai Hongfeng only needed to form a dermic seal, and Xiao Hua could possibly fall. Sigh, Xiao Hua sighed in his heart. Cultivation, is the way of the king. If this young master was also a foundation establishment cultivator, the one escaping right now would probably be this scoundrel. Xiao Hua's heart deflated, and his figure clearly slowed down. Looking at the desolate foothills in front of him, he slanted down. But just as Xiao Hua's figure descended halfway, from a place in the foothills, a divine sense several times more tyrannical than Kai Hongfeng swept over. Ha! Xiao Hua was greatly alarmed, and he almost wanted to cry. This was what it meant to have a wolf in front and a tiger behind. What should he do? Unexpectedly, a hoarse voice rang out at the side of his ear. Ha! It's you, a little wandering cultivator? That voice wasn't very familiar, but Xiao Hua could distinguish that this voice belonged to the late-stage foundation establishment cultivator who had been transported here together with him. Senior, save me. At this moment, Xiao Hua didn't dare to let go of any opportunity. Although he couldn't be certain that this late-stage foundation establishment cultivator could definitely save him, he still shouted out. Is it that rotten old man behind me?
That cultivator found it strange. You're a 4th-level Qi condensation brat. How did you provoke a Foundation establishment cultivator to chase you down? And, from the looks of it, you actually ran for a long time? Alright, how is your flying speed so fast? It's even faster than my Imperial Thunder Sect's lightning evasion technique?
Imperial Thunder Sect? Xiaohua sounded very unfamiliar, and his figure had already landed on the foothills. Fellow Taoist, please. When Xiaohua was swept by the middle-aged cultivator's divine sense, Kai Hongfeng already knew that there was a late-stage Foundation establishment expert at the foothills. Thus, he flew to the sky above the foothills, and didn't dare to descend, bowing and saluting.
What business do you have? A voice rang out, but the cultivator didn't show himself. I wonder what relationship fellow Taoist has with this wandering cultivator? Kai Hongfeng asked respectfully.
Heh, since Xiaohua led you here, this old man is also waiting here.
Do you think this old man has any relationship with Xiaohua? That voice was very cold. Xiaohua. Hearing that cultivator say Xiaohua's name, Kai Hongfeng's complexion turned ashen. He thought that this cultivator really was Xiaohua's old acquaintance, and promptly explained. Fellow Taoist misunderstood. I only wanted to capture Xiaohua for questioning.
I have no other malice. Not waiting for Kai Hongfeng to finish speaking, that voice shouted loudly. Scram!
This old man doesn't care so much. Since this old man has intervened, if you still don't leave, don't blame this old man for being ruthless.
Yes, I will leave now.
Kai Hongfeng's early-stage Qi refining divine sense was far inferior to that cultivator's. How could he still dare to stay here? As he spoke, he got up and left. Seeing Kai Hongfeng hastily running away like a stray dog, Xiaohua had a smile on his face. He walked to the foothills, bowed and said, Many thanks for Senior's help. Senior, please show yourself. A pressure was released from somewhere at the foothills. It was so strong that Xiaohua suddenly fell to the ground, paralyzed. Senior, what are you doing?
Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He forcibly propped himself up, raised his head and asked.
What am I doing? This old man wants to see your cultivation.
That cultivator said indifferently.
This old man saved your life. How do you think you should repay me?
This.
Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Recalling the situation when he parted ways with that cultivator outside the transfer array, he knew that this cultivator wasn't easy to get along with. He could only smile and say, Whatever Senior thinks I should repay you, this junior will repay you accordingly. Chapter 1464. Repay? Of course.
The voice laughed and said, Otherwise, how could this old man save you when we don't even know each other?
Open your mouth.
What?
Xiaohua was stunned and doubted whether he had heard wrongly. However, just as he opened his mouth to ask, the cultivator released his pressure and immediately suppressed Xiaohua until he couldn't move. A dark green shadow flashed and a thumb-sized medicinal pill was thrown into Xiaohua's mouth. Once the medicinal pill entered his mouth, it immediately turned into a sweet medicinal liquid and flowed into Xiaohua's body. However, what happened next surprised Xiaohua. When the medicinal liquid entered his body, it turned into medicinal power and flowed into his meridians just like the clear pleasure pill he had taken before. However, the medicinal power of this medicinal pill was different from the clear pleasure pill. The medicinal power of this medicinal pill actually quickly flowed through Xiaohua's meridians and turned into a thin layer of membrane that stuck to Xiaohua's meridians. At this moment, the cultivator's pressure also withdrew like a waterfall and Xiaohua's body returned to its original state. Xiaohua checked his body and found that there was nothing wrong with other parts of his body.
He asked in a frightened voice, Say,
Senior, is this medicinal pill highly toxic? Who do you think this old man is? How could I force you to take poison?
As he spoke, the middle-aged cultivator walked out from the foot of the mountain.
Ouch! Seeing the cultivator's appearance, Xiaohua was shocked. He saw that the cultivator was far from the calm Xiaohua had seen before. Instead, his face was sallow and dispirited. In particular, his Taoist robe was somewhat tattered and even had some bloodstains on it. Senior, Xiaohua finally understood why the cultivator didn't directly come out to face Kai Hongfeng.
You don't need to care about this old man. The cultivator rolled his eyes and said, You should worry about yourself first.
Xiaohua smiled bitterly and scratched his head, waiting for the cultivator to explain. This old man didn't give you any poison, but a clear pleasure pill. The cultivator stood there and stretched lazily. Clear pleasure pill? Xiaohua had never heard of this name. It's no wonder you don't know.
Although this medicinal pill is ordinary, it's still a medicinal pill for middle-stage foundation establishment cultivators of my Imperial Thunder Sect.
The cultivator said casually. Ah, then thank you very much, senior. Xiaohua stared blankly, then bowed and thanked. Thank me. A smile that wasn't a smile appeared on the cultivator's face. You still don't understand, do you? Xiaohua's eyes swiveled and he suddenly came to a realization. His complexion changed greatly and was almost drained of blood. He hurriedly said, Senior, Junior thanks you for saving my life. Let's see if there's anything I can repay you for. If Senior doesn't have anything for Junior to do, please let Junior go. If there's anything you want to do, please feel free to tell me. But why? Do you want to limit this Junior to the boundary between life and death? While speaking, Xiaohua wants to use his Heart Sutra to expel the medicinal power from his meridians. If it were me, I wouldn't do anything right now. This medicinal power is something that I have set up. You won't be able to expel it with your true qi. If you really want to forcefully break the seal, the medicinal strength of the clear flower pill will leak out. Not to mention all of it, even half of it will be enough to burst your meridians. Xiaohua's whole body trembled, and he hurriedly stopped. Okay, I don't have much time so I won't scare you anymore.
The cultivator waved his hand and said, This old man's restriction will only be broken after 2 years.
During these 2 years, you can rest assured and cultivate as much as you want. With your insignificant cultivation base, you definitely won't be able to break this old man's restriction. Of course, if within these 2 years, this seal isn't broken by my Imperial Thunder Sect's special Heart Sutra, you should already know what your end will be, right? Sai Junior understands. If Senior has any matters, please instruct me as soon as possible. Xiaohua nodded and said. And you're still very obedient. The cultivator smiled and swept his divine sense all around. Then, he patted his storage pouch and took out a fist-sized pearl. That pearl was a dense purple, and it seemed to have endless lightning inside, constantly flickering. The strangest thing was that once the pearl was taken out, all of the surrounding heaven and earth spiritual qi rushed towards this pearl. Moreover, high in the sky, dark clouds instantly appeared, and there were faint flashes of heavenly lightning. Quickly put it into your storage pouch. The cultivator handed it to Xiaohua and anxiously shouted. Yes. Xiaohua didn't dare to delay. After receiving it, he put it into his storage pouch. I am Chen Qinghua from the Imperial Thunder Sect. This pearl. You have to help me send it to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Chen Qinghua's voice sped up. However, you must not go for the first year. Wait until next year at this time. Then you can go. Senior, why? Xiaohua was worried about the clear flower pill in his meridians. Naturally, he wanted to go as soon as possible. Idiot, Chen Qinghua scolded. Even though you're a qi refinement little thing, you've appeared around here before. Even though they won't pay attention to you, but if you appear around the Imperial Thunder Sect again, how can they not be suspicious? I gave it to you because I saw that you're too weak to attract attention. Xiaohua nodded and softly sighed in his heart. Low cultivation. So I'm just a chess piece that you can order around? Just because I'm low cultivation, I'll be at your mercy. Seeing Xiaohua like this, Chen Qinghua said in a low voice, My Imperial Thunder Sect will always repay kindness. Even though I gave you the clear flower pill as a threat, it's also a kind of repayment to you. You only need to send this pearl to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Naturally, the sect's elders will break the restriction on you. Moreover, the pill will also help you refine it slowly. You're dreaming. A little qi refinement cultivator like you will use a pill for foundation establishment cultivators. Think about what kind of changes your cultivation will have after using it. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Senior, you saved my life. If you have any orders, I'll definitely do it. As for this repayment, I don't need it. You do want to do it, but can I be at ease? Xianxia said coldly. If I wasn't forced into a corner and happened to run into you, At this point, Xianxia's expression changed slightly. He took out a square token and threw it to Xiaohua. He hurriedly said, "The enemy is here. This is my token. Take it. Quickly go underground. Remember, you must send the pearl to the Imperial Thunder Sect. Even if it's not because I saved you, you must consider your own life." Seeing Xianxia so nervous, how could Xiaohua be careless? Taking the token, he immediately used the Earth Escape talisman on himself and quickly disappeared into the mountain. "Xiaohua, I hope I didn't misjudge you." Xianxia looked at Xiaohua's disappearing figure and silently muttered in his heart. A fourth-level Qi refinement cultivator could actually escape from an early Foundation establishment cultivator. How could this not attract the attention of the desperate Xianxia? At this moment, the spiritual energy in front of the mountain suddenly changed. Dark clouds suddenly appeared in the sky. Xianxia was shocked. This guy can't be." But then, all of this disappeared indifferently. What kind of pill is Xiaohua selling? Is he going to take it out and look at it again? Xianxia didn't understand Xiaohua's meaning. He scanned with his divine sense and sneered. His figure immediately rose and flew in another direction. What could Xiaohua, who was hiding underground, do? He could only send the pearl and the token from the storage bag into the space. He had thought it through. No matter who Xianxia's enemy was, their target was the pearl. As long as he put the pearl into the space, there would be no danger. What he needed to do now was to be the same as before, a little rogue cultivator who didn't know anything. After a while, Xiaohua recovered the speed of a fourth-level Qi refinement cultivator and drilled out of the ground. It was already afternoon outside and the sun wasn't as bright as before. Xiaohua squinted his eyes and looked around. This place was already a bit barren. How could he recognize it? Just as Xiaohua was scratching his head, two divine senses quickly swept over from the direction Xiaohua just came from. Damn, how did they catch up so fast? Xiaohua was shocked. Xianxia was a Foundation establishment cultivator. How could his enemy be weak? The two divine consciousnesses quickly discovered Xiaohua, but after sweeping past him, they immediately ignored him and swept into the distance. Good. Xiaohua was overjoyed. Xianxia, this guy, really has a good plan. Not long after, two Foundation establishment cultivators flew over together. Xiaohua was already very respectfully waiting in the air. The two cultivators didn't even look at him and were about to fly over his head. Xiaohua's heart was moved. He quickly bowed and said loudly, "Senior, please wait. This junior has something to ask you." One of the two cultivators looked at Xiaohua and seemed to whisper something to the person next to him. He stopped and said coldly, "What do you want?" Junior may be so bold as to ask Senior that, "Where is Rain Town?" "Junior is lost," Xiaohua asked very shyly. "Over there." The cultivator's nose was almost crooked from anger. He pointed in a direction and flew up to catch up with his companion, ignoring Xiaohua. Xiaohua's heart was blooming with joy, but his face was very respectful. He waited until the two cultivators flew far away before he got up and flew towards Rain Town. Perhaps it was because Xiaohua had flown too far. Originally, the distance from Linyu Town to Lu Town was only a dozen or so days. This time, he actually took nearly 30 days. During these 30 days, Xiaohua acted as usual, traveling during the day and cultivating at night. Just like Xianxia said, his cultivation had nothing to do with the layer of clear flower pill tightly attached to his meridians. Whether it was refining his qi or cultivating the dragon transformation art, that layer of medicinal power was not affected by the restriction of a Foundation establishment late-stage cultivator. However, there were two things that made Xiaohua both happy and worried. The happy thing was that when Xiaohua was being chased by Kai Hongfeng, in order to use both the dragon transformation art and the spirit qi refining art at the same time, Xiaohua's blood shadow art seemed to have reached a small success. The fire dragon art actually began to circulate on its own and was no longer controlled by Xiaohua like before. This meant that Xiaohua was cultivating the fire dragon art at almost every moment. But what made Xiaohua worried? It was the bead that he had placed in the space. Chapter 1465. In order to be more discreet, Xiaohua naturally moved the lightning bead from the storage pouch into the space of his mind. However, just as the bead entered the space, the brilliance of the reverse light was abnormally brilliant. It was as if a huge sun was pouring all the scorching light into the bead. Because the bead absorbed a huge amount of light, the entire bead turned into a fist-sized black hole. Moreover, above the space, there were layers of thin clouds just like the sky outside. The clouds were somewhat dark, and there were traces of lightning in the clouds. The lightning faintly interacted with the lightning in the black hole formed by the bead, forming a very wonderful connection. This wasn't the end of it. Just as the lightning formed, the ordinary willow branch inserted into the space suddenly changed. Countless lightning bolts were attracted to the willow branch, forming a thin curtain of light outside the willow branch. It seemed to be a coat made of lightning. Looking at the changes in the space, Xiaohua was also helpless. He didn't dare to rashly move the bead back into the storage pouch. Fortunately, although the bead absorbed a lot of light and had some effect on the willow branch, the other things in the space, such as the growing spiritual herbs, didn't have any special changes in Xiaohua's perception. On the contrary, because there was lightning in the space, the entire space seemed to have a trace of vitality. Xiaohua would occasionally send his mind into the space, and he could still hear the crackling and rumbling sounds of thunder and lightning. Unknowingly, the world began to drizzle again. The rain that didn't wet Xiaohua's clothes continued to fall around him. Xiaohua knew that he didn't go the wrong way this time. He was about to arrive at Linyu town. Just as Xiaohua was preparing to put in more effort to find the location of the transmission array, a divine sense swept over. Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. He quickly slowed down and obediently flew forward. That divine sense swept over Xiaohua's body, and immediately flew away, no longer paying attention to Xiaohua. It seems that even around the transmission array, there are also Foundation establishment cultivators guarding it. I have to be more careful. Xiaohua warned himself, only after passing through the transmission array can I be truly safe. After another half an hour, Xiaohua finally arrived in front of the transfer array. In this short half an hour, nearly a dozen divine senses swept over his body. Xiaohua could clearly feel that these were the divine senses of at least 5 different cultivators. My God, what sect is this? Such a big move? They actually sent so many Foundation establishment cultivators? Xiaohua's heart became more and more frightened. Imperial Thunder Sect. What kind of sect is it? They even dared to provoke such a powerful sect? Moreover, from what Jianghu said, as long as I send the bead to Imperial Thunder Sect, even if this sect knows, Imperial Thunder Sect won't be afraid of this sect. Hey little guy, come over here. While Xiaohua was still muttering in his heart, looking at the transmission array in the distance and hesitating, a cold voice came from midair. Xiaohua's heart shrunk, and he looked up, only to see the empty air in front of him, only the almost invisible drizzle floating in the air. Xiaohua didn't dare to neglect, and hurriedly stopped, and very respectfully bowed. I don't know which senior summoned me. Forgive this junior's shallow cultivation. I can't see senior's true face. I told you to come over, so come over. What's with all this nonsense? Another different voice sounded, and it seemed to be a female cultivator. There are 2. Xiaohua became even more uneasy, and urged his spiritual power to fly towards the source of the voice. Just as Xiaohua was flying halfway, he suddenly felt that the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth seemed to have solidified, and a feeling of suffocation arose spontaneously. Immediately, a faint blue light flashed in front of him, and a male and female late Foundation establishment cultivators appeared about 10 feet in front of him. The 2 cultivators looked to be in their 40s, and they held strange magic tools in their hands. The male cultivator's figure appeared, and with a wave of his hand, Xiaohua's body was shackled, and the surrounding spiritual energy of heaven and earth began to flow again. The male cultivator waved his hand, and Xiaohua's figure slowly flew closer until he was about 10 feet away from him. Little guy, what are you doing in Rain Town? The male cultivator looked at Xiaohua without any emotion in his eyes. Senior, this junior is. Xiaohua wanted to say that he was a talisman master of the Fu family, but he suddenly remembered that the talisman master came with Qianxia through the transmission array. Wouldn't he be looking for trouble if he said that? But immediately, his heart trembled. This sect was so powerful, and he came with Qianxia, there was no reason for them not to find out. If he didn't tell the truth, wouldn't it be worse? What should I do? Should I say or not? Xiaohua hesitated. What are you doing here? Seeing Xiaohua's hesitation, the male cultivator didn't move, but his finger also moved a few times. Xiaohua felt his body tighten, and his spiritual energy seemed to be frozen like ice. He couldn't use it. Senior, please don't be angry, this junior is a talisman master of the Fu family store in Yenabis City. This time, I came to Rain Town because it was on the way. This junior will use the transmission array to go to Jade Bamboo Mountain and then return to Golden Mountain. Xiaohua hurriedly shouted. Xiaohua didn't say this, but once he said it, the two cultivators' faces became happy. They looked at each other and said, "You are the talisman master who came with Qian Qinghua?" Qian Qinghua? Xiaohua's face froze, then he realized and nodded. Senior, are you talking about the Foundation Establishment Senior? Do you know him? The male cultivator asked again. Xiaohua of course shook his head and said, "No." Then, why did he let you go with him through the transmission array? The male cultivator continued to ask. Sure enough, Xiaohua was very glad that he honestly told the truth. Soon after he hurriedly said, Senior, this junior doesn't know that Foundation Establishment Senior at all. It's just that this junior wore the camouflage cloth and slightly pretended to have a higher cultivation level, which made that senior unhappy. That senior insisted on seeing this junior's cultivation level and true appearance, so he let this junior go with him. As he said this, Xiaohua's face showed a burst of fear, as if the situation at that time was very critical. A strange expression appeared on the male cultivator's face. He nodded and said, "Where's your camouflage cloth? Take it out and let me see." Yes. Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. He hurriedly took out the camouflage cloth from his storage bag and handed it over. The male cultivator didn't reach out his hand, but only scanned it with his spiritual sense and said indifferently, "No need to look, you can take it back." Yes. Xiaohua took the camouflage cloth. "Take out your storage bag and let me take a look." The female cultivator who hadn't said anything until now coldly said. Xiaohua nimbly untied the storage bag and handed it over. Of course, there wasn't anything inside the storage bag. The female cultivator opened it and frowned a bit. Soon after, she scanned it with her spiritual sense and asked, "Do you have other storage bags?" "Yes," Xiaohua answered honestly. Storage bags couldn't be placed inside the space, so he could only put them in his sleeves. Both left and right were empty, so he wasn't afraid of anything. You really have a lot of storage bags?" The male cultivator was a bit surprised when he saw Xiaohua take out a storage bag from his sleeve. "Senior, you should know that these are all empty," Xiaohua said while taking them. "Oh, you actually have 2 more spirit storage bags?" The female cultivator saw the spirit storage bags in Xiaohua's hand and said somewhat excitedly. Xiaohua's heart moved, and he smiled apologetically. "To tell you the truth, I don't know if my luck is good or bad. These storage pouches and spirit storage pouches were casually picked up by me, but what made me angry was that there were only some inconspicuous spirit stones within these storage pouches, and there was nothing else." Nonsense. If the things weren't taken away by someone else, why would they throw the storage bags away? The female cultivator curled her lips and said, "Only a low-level chi refinement brat like you would treat these storage bags as treasures, right?" Xiaohua's face reddened, and he smiled apologetically. "I just wanted to exchange these storage bags for spirit stones. It's just that I haven't found the opportunity. If the 2 seniors like it, I'll give this whatever spirit storage bag to you." The female cultivator's face lit up with joy. Just as she was about to speak, the male cultivator smiled and said, "How can we Foundation Establishment cultivators take advantage of an chi refinement junior like you? Why don't you state a price? I'll wait for that thing to exchange with you." Xiaohua was overjoyed. He scratched his head and said, "It's not easy to state a price. I've never seen this spirit storage bag in the trading market." The female cultivator was unhappy and asked curiously, "Don't you want to exchange it for spirit stones?" "I'll give you spirit stones anyway." "All right, seniors, I could hear your voices just now, but I couldn't see you. Is it because seniors have invisibility talismans on you? If you do, you brat, You actually know how to curry favor. The male cultivator laughed and scolded. I's invisibility talisman is a spirit talisman. Why would I exchange it for your spirit storage bag? Junior's spirit storage bag is also a rare item. Xiaohua pretended to argue. I do have 2 used invisibility talismans here. The female cultivator was somewhat hesitant. Xiaohua was overjoyed when he heard this. He quickly clapped his hands and said, used ones are also fine, as long as you can use them again. These invisibility talismans can save lives. Junior wants to thank the 2 seniors for helping me. With the invisibility talismans in hand, Xiaohua could not only escape but also obtain benefits. How could he not hurry up and take advantage of this situation? The female cultivator put away 1 spirit storage bag and handed the other spirit storage bag to the male cultivator. The remaining spirit storage bags naturally returned to Xiaohua. Xiaohua took the spirit storage bags and asked with a mysterious expression, Senior, I wonder why you're looking for that late-stage foundation establishment senior? That senior's temper isn't good. Humph, don't ask things you shouldn't ask. The male cultivator put away the spirit storage bags and glared at Xiaohua. You'd better hurry back to your Jianghu mountain and properly refine your yellow talismans. We'll talk about it after you raise your cultivation a bit. Yes, Junior understands. Xiaohua bowed and smiled apologetically. Junior's aptitude isn't good enough, so I can only rely on talisman crafting techniques to cultivate. And you can go. The female cultivator waved her hand and said, If you see that cultivator again, forget it. How can you possibly see him again? Chapter 1466. After Xiaohua put away the storage pouch and other items, he bowed towards the 2 foundation establishment cultivators and flew towards the teleportation formation. Looking at Xiaohua's back, the male cultivator said in a low voice, Junior Martial Sister Qi, send a message to Martial Nephew Liao. He doesn't need to spend any more effort on the Fu clan and its store. A low-level Qi refining talisman master can't have any relationship with Imperial Thunder Sect's Xianxia. That's right. I heard Martial Nephew Liao say that the mysterious cultivator might be a 4th-level Qi refining loose cultivator, so I thought that Xiaohua and Xianxia couldn't have any relationship. Imperial Thunder Sect is such a proud sect. Although it isn't listed as one of the 3 great sects in our country of Shi, they never put ordinary cultivation sects in their eyes. What is the Fu family? How can they be compared to Imperial Thunder Sect? I can't do anything about it. That thing is very secretive. Martial Nephew Zhao and the others got the news, but they didn't have the ability to take it out. They could only send the news to the sect, but the news was leaked. Junior Sister Qi knows that if Imperial Thunder Sect gets their hands on it, their strength will increase by 30%. For this reason, I don't dare to be careless if there is even the slightest bit of suspicion. Xiaohua has appeared. He has nothing to do with Xianxia, and there is nothing in his storage pouch. This so-called mysterious cultivator has also come to light. Let's focus on Xianxia. This loose cultivator called Xiaohua is quite lucky. Such a rare storage pouch, and he actually has 2 of them. It's a bargain for us. Humph, I would have just killed him with a slap. Why give him any spirit stones? Junior Sister Qi, your invisibility talisman can only be used a few more times. What's the difference between a storage pouch and a free one? Xiaohua is just a 4th-level Qi refining kid, almost like an ant. Why do you put him in your eyes? I always feel that this guy is a bit strange. Junior Sister Qi laughed. At this moment, in another direction, a beam of light appeared in the sky. Quick, a disciple found Xianxia. Junior Martial Sister Qi, you stay here to guard the teleportation formation and inform the other senior martial brothers. The male cultivator was overjoyed when he saw this. He formed an incantation gesture and flew towards the source of the light. The female cultivator responded and waved her hand. Several yellow talismans flew out in different directions. Xiaohua didn't notice the brilliance behind him. He just calmly flew towards the transfer array. Before he could even get close to the transfer array, several figures appeared around the transfer array. Several foundation establishment cultivators quickly flew towards the direction behind Xiaohua. Their divine senses swept over Xiaohua's body. Then they ignored him. Good boy. There are still a bunch of foundation establishment cultivators here. Xiao Hua almost broke out in a cold sweat. Without waiting for Xiao Hua to pretend to be respectful, those cultivators all left.
Xiao Hua only turned his head to take a look, then sped up and flew into the courtyard where the teleportation array was located.
Fellow Taoist, where are you going? An armored guard greeted him. Xiao Hua looked around. The transfer array was the same as when he came here. There were several guards and cultivators controlling the transfer array. He cupped his hands and smiled. I want to go to Jade Mountain. Is it convenient? Please hand over a high-grade spirit stone. The guard said straightforwardly. Xiao Hua was delighted. He patted his storage bag and took out a high-grade spirit stone and handed it over. After the guard took it, he handed a talisman to Xiao Hua. Fellow Taoist, just now, this humble Taoist met two Foundation Establishment seniors outside the teleportation formation. They asked some baffling questions. What were they doing? Xiao Hua placed the talisman on his body and asked in a low voice. I don't know. I only care about the transfer array. The guard's face was calm and didn't answer at all. Xiao Hua saw that he couldn't find out anything, so he closed his mouth and didn't say anything else. The transfer array was very smooth. Presumably, those Foundation Establishment cultivators only blocked outside the transfer array and didn't interfere with it. When the transfer array flashed, Xiao Hua's figure disappeared from the transfer array. The entire transfer array returned to its original state. Xiao Hua's vision turned black and his body sank. But soon, the heavy pressure disappeared. When Xiao Hua opened his eyes, he was on top of a cliff. A Foundation Establishment middle stage cultivator and several other cultivators who looked like guards stood around the transfer array. They looked at Xiao Hua coldly. Excuse me. Senior, is this Jade Mountain? Xiao Hua walked out of the transfer array and bowed. This is Jade Mountain. A guard who was slightly closer to Xiao Hua said. You wanted to transfer here yourself. Could there be a mistake with this transfer array? Xiao Hua smiled and asked again. Fellow Taoist, please tell me where is Jade Mountain? Why does fellow Taoist want to go to Jade Mountain? Are you a disciple of the Fu clan? When the guard heard Xiao Hua mention Jade Mountain, he asked. I am a new talisman master of the Fu clan. This is the first time I've come to Jade Mountain. Fellow Taoist, please tell me where to go. Xiao Hua said with a smile. Oh, so it's a new talisman master of the Fu clan. The guard obviously knew that the Fu clan was recruiting talisman masters. His face eased a little and said, Many cultivators have come recently. They are all going to Jade Mountain. If fellow Taoist had come a few hours earlier, you might have met one. Is that so? Xiao Hua asked anxiously. Where did that fellow Taoist go? Northwest. The guard replied. Xiao Hua nodded. Thank you. I will go and chase after that fellow Taoist. Seeing Xiao Hua hurriedly leaving, the guard shouted. Jade Mountain is in the east. Why are you chasing after that cultivator? Xiao Hua was stunned. That fellow Taoist. Didn't he go to Jade Mountain? That fellow Taoist also asked about the direction of Jade Mountain. However, he went to the northwest. As for why, I don't know. Thank you, fellow Taoist. Xiao Hua didn't say anything else. He cupped his hands and bid farewell. From Jian Yushan's transmission formation to Jinhua Mountain, there was still a distance of nearly 10 days. Xiao Hua was no longer in a hurry. He leisurely flew, hurrying along the way while cultivating. When he arrived near Jinhua Mountain, admittedly, his cultivation had made progress. Even the pearl inside the space had gradually returned to normal, no longer absorbing the brilliance of light tracing. However, the dark clouds inside the space had become denser and denser, and the lightning had also become denser. At the same time, Xiao Hua had also read through the so-called stealing the sky, sun-swapping cultivation technique that he had obtained from the Kai family. Indeed, it was as Fairy Xianxia had said. This cultivation technique was very obscure, and there were many parts that he could not understand. Fortunately, the first part of this cultivation technique was about changing one's appearance. Xiao Hua was able to understand it, and he would study it every day during his free time. In these 10 days, he had gained some insights. Of course, he was still far from being able to change his appearance. Jade Mountain was a rather large mountain peak. Its size was about the same as Yellow Flower Ridge's Mingxi Peak. However, the Fu clan seemed to be more lively than Xianghua Ming. There were many buildings. Some were bungalows, some were pavilions, and some were actually straw sheds. However, there were people going in and out of these buildings from time to time. From afar, Xiao Hua saw some disciples wearing the Fu clan's disciple clothes. There were men and women among these disciples. Some were guarding the roadside, some were guarding the pavilions.
There were even more who came out of the buildings and flew towards the manor-like houses at the foot of the mountain.
Alas, although it's a talisman-making family, but the population is flourishing. Compared to the so-called cultivation sects, it's not just a little bit stronger. Xiao Hua sighed. He pulled himself together and was about to land at the nearest manor at the foot of the mountain. At this moment, he heard a clear voice behind him. "Fellow Taoist, are you here to ask for a talisman for my Fu clan?" When Xiao Hua turned around, he saw two female cultivators who looked exactly the same standing in the air several meters behind him. These two had big round eyes, thick eyebrows, and a small mouth under a moderately sized nose. The two didn't have the elegant temperament of fairy Xianxia, but the youthful beauty on their round faces made Xiao Hua's eyes light up. Xiao Hua stared blankly for a moment before he cupped his fists and said, "This humble Taoist is Xiao Hua. I am from Yenyuan City and was recommended by the shopkeeper of the Fu clan's shop to be a talisman master." "You are a talisman maker?" The female cultivator on the left opened her small mouth wide in an exaggerated manner. "Are you sure you're not here to be a disciple of my Fu clan?" "Little sister." The female cultivator on the right frowned and used her arm to nudge the female cultivator on the left. She cupped her hands toward Xiao Hua and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, please don't blame me. Little sister hasn't traveled much and doesn't know enough." "That's right, big sister. In my Fu clan, which talisman maker who isn't surnamed Fu isn't at least at the 5th layer of qi refining? He's only at the 4th layer of qi refining. He can't even compare to me. How can he be a talisman maker?" The female cultivator chattered. "However, he's already old. It's not suitable for him to be a disciple of my Fu clan. Martial Uncle Fu of Yenyuan City has always been steady. There must be a reason for him to recommend a talisman maker." The other female cultivator said with a smile. "Fellow Taoist Xiao, do you have Martial Uncle Fu's keepsake?" "Of course." Xiao Hua smiled and took out the keepsake that Elder Lu Yun gave him from his storage bag. The female cultivator took it and looked at it carefully. She couldn't help but feel astonished. She looked at Xiao Hua and said, Fellow Taoist Xiao really has some background. You're actually able to obtain Elder Lu Yun's keepsake. She's always had high standards." "Really? Let me take a look." The other female cultivator snatched it away and looked at it carefully as well. She snorted. "Humph, needless to say, this Xiao Hua definitely knows Elder Lu Yun." Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. He hadn't even entered the Fu clan and he already met two twin sisters. They didn't even tell him their names and just commented on him here. Just as Xiao Hua was pondering about what to say, two cultivators flew over from the right side of the female cultivator. The one in front was also a female cultivator. Her appearance was average and she was quite tall. Unfortunately, her entire body was like the shaft of a demonic spear. Moreover, from afar, before Xiao Hua could clearly see the smile on the female cultivator's face, he was attracted by a crooked fang in the female cultivator's mouth. Chapter 1467. When Xiao Hua finally shifted his gaze away from the female cultivator's teeth and saw the male cultivator behind her, he couldn't help but be stunned on the spot. Isn't this the guy who sold memes in Jinghu City? Why did he come to Jinhua Mountain? Also, wasn't his cultivation level at the 7th layer of qi refining before? Now, why does it look like he's only at the 5th layer of qi refining? Xiao Hua looked at the man strangely. When the man saw Xiao Hua, he was also stunned and almost stopped in mid-air. His face turned slightly pale and a trace of ruthlessness flashed in his eyes. Seeing the strange look on the man's face, Xiao Hua suddenly woke up and remembered what he heard in Yunqi Lake. So this is the Fu clan that the man was talking about. He He wants to join the Fu clan because of some hatred. Sure enough, he heard the female cultivator shout in a hoarse voice. Fu Zhu, Fu Ma, did you meet a newcomer too? The man behind you. Is he also a new disciple of our Fu clan?
The man was extremely handsome.
Fu Zhu and Fu Ma's eyes lit up and they asked in a low voice. The Fu Ma's face also had a trace of excitement and she whispered, Of course he's called He Fu. He's the talisman master that our Fu clan selected from Jianghu city this time. Just now. He just arrived at Jianghu mountain and I met him. The Fu Ma's younger sister twitched her mouth and said, You're quite lucky. Fu Zhu smiled and said, This is also a new talisman master of our Fu clan, but he's from Yenyuan city. His name is Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua. The Fu Ma shook her head and said, This name is a bit old-fashioned. It doesn't sound as good as He Fu's. Xiao Hua blinked his eyes, dazed. He didn't understand how his name was inferior to some He Fu. However, when he saw He Fu's twinkling eyes, he stepped forward and cupped his hands. I, Xiao Hua, greet fellow Taoist He. Fellow Taoist's cultivation level is profound. I admire you very much. Although this is the first time we've met, we've been crafting talismans in Jianghu mountain since then. If possible, I would like to ask fellow Taoist to guide me a lot. When he heard this, he felt relieved. A smile finally appeared on his face, and he hurriedly returned the greeting. Fellow Taoist Xiao, oh no, I should call you junior brother Xiao. Although we didn't know each other before, we are now under the same roof. If junior brother Xiao has any problems, you can tell me. We will support each other and progress together. Wow, Song Ying's smile was mesmerizing, and his words were pleasant to the ears. Fu Zhu, Fu Ho, and Fu Zhu's eyes lit up when they saw him, and they couldn't help but praise him from the bottom of their hearts. Xiao Hua smiled. I'll listen to Senior Martial Brother He's instructions. He turned around and said, Senior Martial Sisters, how should we deal with this? Please lead the way. Fu Ho and the others seemed to have woken up from a dream, and their faces flushed red with shyness. She hurriedly said, Io, Junior Martial Brother He, we have neglected you. Please follow us to the Skyward Pavilion. Our Fu clan's elders will examine Junior Martial Brother. As she spoke, the three of them clustered around Song Ying, and they descended into a courtyard at the foot of the mountain, leaving Xiao Hua standing there like a stick. Are you kidding me? Xiao Hua silently cursed. I came to Mount Jianhua to cultivate honestly, and that guy Song Ying came to take revenge. You guys are really too blind, right? Soon after, Xiao Hua activated his flying talisman and chased after them. As he flew, he thought, damn it, how am I lacking compared to Song Ying? Humph, I still have to hurry up and cultivate that stealing the sky technique. Wuxia made me ugly, but I have to make myself handsome. The Skyward Pavilion was a place of the Fu clan that specialized in managing talisman masters. It was located at the western foot of Mount Jianhua. Mount Jianhua did not prohibit flying. On the contrary, due to the distance between the courtyards, ordinary disciples had to fly out of each courtyard. However, Fu Zhu and the others were the opposite. They actually walked from the foot of the mountain to the Skyward Pavilion step by step from the Fu clan's guest pavilion. Xiao Hua did not know this until the Fu clan's disciple guarding the Skyward Pavilion asked Fu Ho if she had used up her flying talisman. Only then did he understand the reason. Song Ying was definitely an eloquent person. This was something Xiao Hua had seen at Jianghu City's E.G. Along the way, Song Ying had already obtained a lot of information from Fu Zhu and Fu Ho. He did not know anything else, but at least Xiao Hua understood that Fu Zhu and Fu Ho were a pair of twin sisters of the Fu clan's direct line of descent. They were extremely favored by the Fu clan's patriarch, Fu Yunhua. As for Fu Ho, she was born of a concubine and had the same seniority as Fu Zhu and Fu Ho. However, her status in the Fu clan was not just a little bit lower. Knowing this, Xiao Hua's attitude towards Fu Zhu and the Fu puppet was clearly fervent. His words were often witty, causing the two beauties to smile from ear to ear, endlessly delighted. As for the Fu puppet, he paid less attention to it. Occasionally, his words would be slightly polite, causing the Fu puppet to frown slightly, a trace of jealousy appearing in its eyes. This is the true color of a pretty boy. I'm afraid. He can be compared to Yun Jiechong. Xiao Hua shook his head as he followed the four people to the Skyward Pavilion. Fu Shan, quickly report to Elder Fu Feng that the talisman masters recommended by Jinghua City and Yenyuan City have arrived. When Fu Hou saw that the Skyward Pavilion's disciple was asking about Fu Zhu, she couldn't help but feel a little angry. She glanced at Song Ying and shouted at the disciple. Fu Shan originally wanted to greet Fu Hou, but when he saw Fu Hou's expression, he couldn't help but be startled. He had an idea in his heart. Coincidentally, even though Fu Huang did not have a good figure or good looks, she was a concubine of the Fu clan. Her status in the Fu clan was quite high. Fu Shan, on the other hand, was a disciple with a different surname and joined the Fu clan. Even though he had changed his surname, he had not decided on a female companion for dual cultivation. He did not dare to think about Fu Zhu and Fu Huang, but Fu Huang had caught his eye. Even though he could not say that she was like a turnip and a cabbage to each his own, his feelings for her had gradually become apparent. Just now, when Fu Shan was talking to Fu Zhu, he was paying attention to Fu Hou's gaze and expression. When he saw that Fu Hou's eyes almost never left Song Ying's face, and that she was shouting at him, Fu Shan was sensitive enough to realize that there was a problem. He unconsciously stared at Song Ying and Xiao Hua with extreme vigilance and sneered, "Aren't they just two talisman masters? What's so great about them? In Jianghu Mountain, three-legged toads aren't easy to find, but two-legged talisman masters are a dime a dozen. Besides, these few days are the days when all the talisman masters and disciples will gather here. Where would Elder Fu have the time to test these two people alone? Senior sisters, you can just send them here. I'll arrange for them to rest first. When more people come tomorrow or the day after, they'll meet Elder Fu together." Fu Zhu and Fu Hou were startled. In Jianghu Mountain, no one had ever disobeyed them, so they didn't understand the hidden meaning in Fu Shan's words. However, Fu Hou was furious. She couldn't bear to see Fu Shan, who had been so obedient to her before, contradict her like this. She unconsciously said angrily, "You'll go when I tell you to? Since when did you arrange Elder Fu's time?" Seeing this, Song Ying immediately bowed and said, "Senior Marshal Brother Fu Shan is right. Xiao Hua and I have just arrived at Jinghua Mountain. How could we trouble Elder Fu too much? Senior sisters, thank you for sending us to Skyward Pavilion." "Senior sisters. Fu Hou said anxiously, "You don't know. The talisman masters sent from all over the world have passed the first selection, but, in Skyward Pavilion, Elder Fu still has to be tested." Fu Zhu nudged Fu Hou with her arm and said, "We'll be patrolling Jinghua Mountain today. If fellow Taoist he can't pass the test, we'll be responsible for sending you out of Jinghua Mountain." Song Ying smiled, his face shining brightly. He cupped his hands and said, "Thank you, senior sisters. Even if I can't stay in Jinghua Mountain today, to be able to meet you, senior sisters, this trip to Jinghua Mountain was worth it." Fu Zhu and Fu Hou were smiling, but Fu Hou's face was frighteningly gloomy. She shouted at Fu Shan, "Didn't you see? Why aren't you going to report to Elder Fu?" At this moment, a weak divine sense swept out from Skyward Pavilion. It scanned Xiao Hua, Song Ying, and the others before withdrawing. Then a voice came, "Who's making a ruckus outside Skyward Pavilion?" "Elder Fu Zhu Hua, and Fu Hou." Fu Hou heard and called out with a smile. "Oh, it's you. Come in quickly. Aren't you patrolling the mountain today? Why did you come to my Skyward Pavilion?" The voice said kindly. "Humph." The Fu puppet snorted at Fu Shan and pulled him into the Skyward Pavilion. Fu Zhu and the Fu puppet were like little swallows rushing to the front. "Senior brother Fu Shan, please." Xiao Hua walked at the back and signaled Fu Shan to go first. Fu Shan glared at him and sneered, "My duty is to guard this place. Since you don't need to report, I'd better not go in." After saying that, he left Xiao Hua and walked to the entrance of Skyward Pavilion. Xiao Hua looked at Fu Shan with narrowed eyes. After a moment of hesitation, he also strode into Skyward Pavilion. Skyward Pavilion was an enormous hall. At this moment, it was empty except for a white-haired old man in a Taoist robe sitting on a praying mat. It was Elder Fu Feng, who was in charge of Skyward Pavilion. As the five of them approached, they all bowed to pay their respects. Fu Feng waved his hand and smiled. "No need to be so polite. What business do you have with me?" "Reporting to Elder Fu." Song Ying stepped forward and said respectfully, This one is He Fu. I was recommended by Manager Fu of Jianghu City's Fu Clan store. I came to Jianhu Mountain to work as a talisman crafting master. Xiaohua also stepped forward and said, This one is Xiaohua. I was recommended by Manager Fu of Yenyuan City's Fu Clan store, Fu Yingmin. You are He Fu and Xiaohua? When Fu Feng heard this, he couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment. Elder Fu knows this one? Song Ying's heart skipped a beat, but he still asked calmly. Haha, how could I not know? Fu Feng flew up from the praying mat and said with a smile, One of you is able to craft a high-level confinement talisman with a 4th-level qi refining cultivation. It's already very rare. The other is able to craft a middle-level 5 elemental yellow talisman with a 5th-level qi refining cultivation. It's definitely not easy.
The two of you were ordered by the clan head to be careful.
How could I not know? Chapter 1468. You can refine high-grade confinement talismans? After hearing Fu Feng's words, not only was Fu Feng surprised. Even Fu Zhu, Fu Mu, and Fu Zhu's eyes were filled with astonishment. Although there were many talisman masters in the Fu clan's Jinhua Mountain, there were very few who could refine high-grade yellow talismans, let alone high-grade confinement talismans. Xiaohua quickly waved his hand. Elder Fu Feng, you've misunderstood me. I don't know how to write talismans in the talisman crafting method, so I can't refine confinement talismans. Oh, so it's like that. Fu Feng smiled and said, You don't need to be modest. Compared to the entire refining process of confinement talismans, the method of writing talismans is nothing. Different sects have different methods of writing talismans. Since there are differences, it's not the most important thing. When you have the opportunity to learn the method of writing talismans in the future, refining confinement talismans will be easy. I don't dare. I hope Elder Fu Feng can teach me.
Xiaohua bowed and said,
Good, Xiaohua. Since you've become a talisman master in my Fu clan, you must follow my Fu clan's rules. Now that you've entered my skyward pavilion, you must show off your skills and not lose face for Elder Lu Yun. Fu Feng smiled. Right, Elder Fu, this is Elder Lu's token. Xiaohua just handed it over. Fu Zhao quickly handed over the token. Fu Feng nodded and accepted it. Xiaohua took out a talisman brush, talisman paper, and talisman ink from his storage pouch. Fu Feng and the others frowned when they saw what Xiaohua was using. Xiaohua, you're using these to refine confinement talismans?
Fu Zhao couldn't help but ask.
Yes.
Xiaohua nodded.
But confinement talismans are high-grade yellow talismans. If you use high-grade talisman brush, high-grade talisman paper, and high-grade talisman ink, will it be better? Fu Feng couldn't help but ask. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. Elder Fu Feng, I'll let you know. Those high-grade items are all exchanged with high-grade spirit stones. Where would I get so many high-grade spirit stones when I'm just a 4th-stage qi refinement cultivator? That's true. Fu Zhao looked at Xiaohua sympathetically. Hold on. As Fu Feng spoke, he slapped his hand and withdrew high-grade talisman paper, talisman ink, and talisman brushes from his storage pouch before passing them over with a smile. Use these to refine the talisman. Is it useful? Xiaohua muttered in his heart, but he still gratefully accepted the item. Sure enough, when Xiaohua poured his transcendence energy into that high-grade talisman paper, he felt that the control of transcendence energy was much stronger than that of a low-grade talisman brush. It was almost comparable to his bare finger. On the other hand, the high-grade talisman ink was even more tightly wrapped around the magic power. Just a little bit of talisman ink was enough to wrap around a lot of magic power, and it was far from what low-grade talisman ink could compare to. This humble one will embarrass himself. As Xiaohua spoke, he pretended to hold his breath and began to refine the imprisonment talisman on the talisman paper. Xiaohua's technique was very proficient, and the runes he wrote were also very smooth. He also grasped the various timings very well. Every time the rune ink was about to be unable to contain the magic power, he would write the runes onto the talisman paper. The high-grade talisman paper was very easy to use, and after several flashes of brilliance, it did not turn into ashes. However, Xiaohua did not have the method to write the runes. In the end, when there was still a long way to go before he could successfully refine the imprisonment talisman,
The talisman paper still ignited with a pu sound. This humble one. Xiaohua stood guard and raised his head. However, what welcomed him were the fiery gazes of the 5 people. The 5 people present were all talisman masters, and they had all been immersed in the art of talisman crafting for many years. With their insight, how could they not see through it? Xiaohua only lacked the method to write the runes. As long as he understood the method to write the runes, he would be able to refine a high-grade imprisonment talisman at any time. Sigh, what Elder Lu Yun said was true. Fu Yingmin, this fellow, has made a great contribution to our Fu clan this time. Fu Feng sighed. That was because the Fu clan had to spend a lot of effort to cultivate a talisman master who could refine high-grade imprisonment talismans. However, a talisman master who could refine imprisonment talismans right after entering the Fu clan. In the future, he would definitely be a guest elder. How could Fu Feng not sigh? However, what Xiaohua has done is nothing. Fu Zhao retracted her astonishment and looked at Song Ying with a smile. He Fu is able to refine all 5 elemental yellow talismans to the middle grade. This is even rarer in our Fu clan. Fu Feng looked at Song Ying and nodded. That's right. The Fireball Talisman, Weak Water Talisman, Earth Mask Talisman, Wood Life Talisman, and Sharp Metal Talisman are all low-grade 5 elemental yellow talismans that reinforce and restrain each other. They are closely related to the talisman master's physique. It's already not easy for an ordinary talisman master to refine 2 types of talismans. However, He Fu was able to refine all 5 types of talismans to the middle grade.
Fellow Taoist he? Aren't you going to show us?
Fu Zhu said with a smile. Since senior sister Fu has spoken, how could I dare to disobey? He glanced at the 3 women and cupped his hands in a very confident manner. He picked up the talisman brush that Xiaohua used just now, activated his magic power, and dipped it in talisman ink. His wrist was like a chick pecking rice, shaking it in different ways. His other hand took out 5 identical high-grade talisman papers from his storage bag, lined them up in a circle, and placed them in front of him.
What? This? Don't tell me.
He wants to refine the 5 elemental yellow talismans at the same time? Once they saw Song Ying's posture, not only Xiaohua, but the 4 people from the Fu clan also looked at each other with incomparable shock on their faces. This shock was definitely 100 times more shocking than when they saw Xiaohua refining the confinement talisman. Song Ying was very calm and the talisman brush in his hand didn't stop at all. First, he smoothly wrote the sharp metal talisman onto the talisman paper. However, when he put down the brush, he very strangely slipped the brush and a trace of talisman ink appeared in the talisman, hanging from the sharp metal talisman to the blank yellow talisman beside it. At this moment, the incomplete sharp metal talisman was faintly flickering, as if it was about to spontaneously combust. However, the extra trace of talisman ink had a trace of magic power hanging over the sharp metal talisman, preventing it from burning. Immediately after, Song Ying started to refine the wood life talisman from the talisman ink on the blank yellow talisman paper. At the same time, he also left the last trace of talisman ink on the blank yellow talisman paper, and the wood life talisman also began to faintly flicker. Next, the talisman ink was connected to the weak water talisman, and the weak water talisman ink was connected to the fireball talisman. Until the last earth mask talisman was drawn, Song Ying skillfully flicked his brush and an extra trace of talisman ink appeared. From the earth mask talisman, he hung the first sharp metal talisman that he drew. The moment the trace of talisman ink that contained earth chi hung onto the sharp metal talisman, a crisp, kacha sound came from the sharp metal talisman. A middle-grade sharp metal talisman was refined. Following the birth of the sharp metal talisman, a trace of gold chi was transmitted through the talisman ink into the wood life talisman. The talisman ink that hung on the sharp metal talisman gradually dimmed. With a kacha sound, the wood life talisman was also formed. At the same time, a trace of wood chi was transmitted into the weak water talisman. When the weak water talisman was formed, a trace of water chi was transmitted into the fireball talisman. When the fireball talisman was successfully refined, a trace of fire chi was transmitted into the earth mask talisman. At this moment, the trace of earth mask talisman that was thrown onto the sharp metal talisman completely disappeared. With a crisp kacha sound, the last earth mask talisman was successfully refined. 5 element talismans were refined very skillfully by Song Ying. The entire skyward pavilion was silent. Song Ying stood there very satisfied,
smiling as he looked at the shocked 5 people. Even Xiao Hua. He had never thought that the 5-element talisman could be refined in such a way. Great! After a long while, Fu Feng was the first to come to his senses. He clapped his hands and said, using the 5 elements to suppress each other and prevent the incomplete 5-element talisman from being destroyed. Then using the 5 elements to generate the 5-element talismans one by one in order. Such a miraculous talisman refining method. If one was not a genius, how could one think of it? God bless my Fu family. When he looked at Fu Zhu and Fu Puppet again, the previous good impression in his eyes had turned into an indescribable emotion in an instant. There was admiration, envy, and a trace of longing. Amazing! This was Xiao Hua's only thought at this time. In his mind, a yellow talisman was a yellow talisman, and he could just refine it one by one. He had never dreamed that someone would make use of the principle of mutual restraint and generation of the 5 elements to refine these 5 completely different yellow talismans in one go, as if pushing a boat with the current. At this time, suddenly, a divine sense swept in from outside the skyward pavilion. It circled around everyone's bodies and locked onto Xiao Hua and Song Ying. This divine sense was very unfamiliar. Xiao Hua's eyes moved slightly, but Fu Feng's face was filled with joy. He stood up and said, "Congratulations, family head. This one has just obtained 2 geniuses and family head has heard the news and come here. This is really fate." Which family's Xianxia is this? To be able to make my Fu family's skyward pavilion's elder Fu Feng praise him so much? A gentle voice came from outside the skyward pavilion. Family head. Fu Zhu, Fu Puppet, and Fu Puppet's faces were filled with joy. They quickly walked out of the skyward pavilion to welcome the guest. Xiao Hua and Song Ying looked at each other and saw a kind of surprise in each other's eyes. Song Ying's eyes were filled with a trace of panic and sternness. Xiao Hua naturally knew what Song Ying was thinking, but this had nothing to do with him. He only wanted to find a stable place to cultivate in the Fu family, and see if he could get his hands on any Yunqing talismans. If he didn't have any, then it was fine. After a year, if he was happy here, he would go to the Imperial Thunder Sect and dissolve the medicinal efficacy of the clear flower pill in his meridians. He would then give the strange bead to the Imperial Thunder Sect and return here to cultivate. If he was unhappy, he would leave the Fu family. After all, he was just a talisman master, not selling his life to the Fu family. Fu Feng stood up to welcome the guest. Xiao Hua and Song Ying followed behind him. When the 3 of them reached the center of the main hall, an old man in his 40s walked in with Fu Zhu and the other 2 escorting him. This old man has fair skin and handsome features. Even though he is already old, he has an imposing aura that is comparable to a gigolo. Xiao Hua muttered in his heart when he saw the Fu family's patriarch Fu Yunbu's appearance. Chapter 1469. So this is the handsome disciple that my Fu clan recruited today? Fu Yunbu asked with a smile on his face. His gaze swept across Xiao Hua and Ying Cheng as he asked. Junior Xiao Hua and Ying Cheng greet Senior Fu. Xiao Hua and Ying Cheng didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly bowed. Rise! Fu Yunbo waved his sleeves and stopped the 2 from bowing. He smiled and said, "It's not easy to be praised by Elder Fu Feng. Let this old man see what you're capable of." However, when his gaze fell on Ying Cheng's face, he paused for a moment. Then he looked at Xiao Hua and asked, "You're Xiao Hua?" "Yes, this junior is Xiao Hua." Xiao Hua hurriedly replied. According to Elder Lu Yun's message, with your Qi refining stage 4 cultivation, you almost succeeded in refining the confinement talisman? Hee, Patriarch, Elder Lu Yun's words are not false. Xiao Hua has already attempted to refine the confinement talisman here. In my humble opinion, you only need to teach Xiao Hua the method of writing the confinement talisman and he will be able to refine it easily. Fu Feng said with a smile. As expected, you're making things difficult for this old man. Fu Yunbo smiled and said, Elder Lu Yun really gave this old man a difficult problem. Patriarch, although Xiao Hua can refine the confinement talisman, it's still far from being comparable to Ying Cheng. The Fu puppet couldn't help but say, just now,
We saw with our own eyes that he was actually able to refine the 5 elemental yellow talisman. Moreover, every single one of them was a mid-grade yellow talisman. This kind of miraculous skill. I'm afraid that even our Fu clan rarely sees it, right? The 5 elemental return to origin technique? Fu Yunbo was also moved and said, although our Fu clan is passed down through the generations, this kind of miraculous talisman crafting technique is the Fu clan's secret technique. The other talisman crafting clans that were as famous as our Fu clan have all declined in recent years. This kind of talisman crafting technique is probably extinct outside of the Fu clan. I really didn't expect you to know it. 5 elemental pearl. The Fu puppet suddenly exclaimed, I remember now, this seems to be my Fu clan's secret talisman crafting technique. He patted his hand and took out a damaged book from his storage pouch. He handed it over to Fu Yunbo and said, reporting to Patriarch, this junior obtained this talisman crafting method by chance in my early years. This junior didn't know which family senior spoke of left it behind. It was precisely because of this talisman crafting technique that I thought of joining the Fu clan and properly practicing the Tao of talisman crafting. Oh, I see. Fu Yunbo unceremoniously took it and casually flipped through it before handing it back to him. He nodded and said, if I'm not mistaken, this talisman crafting method was left behind by the Liao family. The Liao family had already declined 100 years ago, and their disciples have never been heard of in the country of Xi. He Fu was really lucky to be able to obtain such a precious talisman crafting method. It's a pity that the content in this book is still incomplete. This junior can only learn this much and has not made any progress for many years. Fu puppet echoed. Just by relying on this damaged book, He Fu was able to cultivate the 5 elemental pearl. He Fu's talisman crafting aptitude must be outstanding. I'm afraid this skyward pavilion won't be able to keep him. It's better to let him directly enter the inner courtyard. Fu Feng suggested. This is still up to He Fu to decide. Fu Yunbo nodded and said, I also love He Fu's talent. However, to enter the inner courtyard, he must be a disciple of the Fu clan. He Fu must change his surname to the Fu clan. Otherwise, he can only practice in the skyward pavilion. He Fu, why aren't you thanking the Patriarch? Even for a direct disciple of the Fu clan, it's difficult to enter the inner courtyard. The Fu puppet hurriedly reminded. This. Fu puppet said awkwardly, shopkeeper Fu has already told me when I was in Jianghu city, but I haven't thought of changing my surname yet. I hope the Patriarch can tolerate me for a few days and allow me to think about it. Haha, it's fine, it's fine. The reason why the Fu clan has always been standing among the cultivation families in the country of Xi with the talisman crafting technique, and not declined like the Liao clan is because the Fu clan seeks common ground while reserving differences. If He Fu wants to stay in the Fu clan, the Fu clan will welcome him with open arms. If He Fu doesn't want to stay in the Fu clan, you can leave at any time. Moreover, as long as you stay in the Fu clan and craft talismans for the Fu clan will reward you according to your hard work. There are many talisman crafting techniques that are hard to find in the cultivation world, and He Fu will have the opportunity to see them. Thank you, Patriarch. Fu puppet was overjoyed and bowed. I've heard that the Fu clan is so open-minded, and that's why I joined the Fu clan. The Patriarch's words have enlightened me. I will think about it carefully and try to repay the Patriarch as soon as possible. Great! Fu Yunbo clapped his hands and said, the Fu clan will open its doors and welcome you at any time. Then, Fu Yunbo looked at Xiaohua and said with a smile, Xiaohua's situation is different but also the same. Without the method of writing the confinement talisman, Xiaohua can only craft the intermediate grade fireball talisman, which is no different from the average talisman craftsman of the Fu clan. However, with the method of writing the confinement talisman, Xiaohua can immediately stand shoulder to shoulder with the high-grade talisman craftsman of the Fu clan. However, the method of writing the confinement talisman is of course another way for the Fu clan. Similarly, it can only be taught to the inner court disciples of the Fu clan. As for the talisman craftsmen of the Skyward Pavilion, they can only teach it after they have made a great contribution to the Fu clan and have sworn not to divulge it to others. Don't you think this is making things difficult for me? Xiaohua smiled and said, I know how precious the method of writing is. I don't ask to be taught the method of writing now. I will first craft the fireball talisman in the Skyward Pavilion.
It won't be too late to teach it when the patriarch feels that I am qualified. Great. Fu Yunbo clapped his hands again and said, Xiao Hua's tranquil temperament is a good material for cultivation. Xiao Hua, you can also consider entering the inner court. My Fu clan welcomes you at any time. Che, I didn't think so much. Xiao Hua said in his heart and replied, Thank you for the patriarch's kindness. I will also consider it. Good. Fu Yunbo stood up and smiled. My Fu clan has gathered many talents in the past few days. This is a sign of great prosperity. Fu Feng, you have to work hard and arrange for these talents well. Even if there is something inappropriate, you have to arrange it well. Don't let others think that my Fu clan is stingy.
Yes, I will obey the patriarch's order. Fu Feng stood up and replied.
Fu Zhu? You have already sent He Fu and Xiao Hua here. Why are you still not patrolling the mountains?
Do not disturb Elder Fu's work.
Fu Yunbo said.
Yes, I will go and patrol the mountains now. Fu Zhu smiled and said, However, you have to confirm that I am He Fu's senior sister.
No, Patriarch, I was the one who brought He Fu into Golden Mount Hua. I am He Fu's senior sister.
Fu Zhu immediately shouted.
He, Fu Zhu. He Fu followed me into Skyward Pavilion. If I am not his senior sister, who will be his senior sister? Fu Zhu smiled and said. Xiao Hua, who was at the side, looked at them in astonishment.
He didn't know what they were fighting for.
Isn't she just a senior sister?
Haha, Fu Yunbo laughed and pointed with his finger. He Fu, Xiao Hua, are you guys confused?
Yes, I don't understand. Xiao Hua and He Fu both bowed and said. In order to let the talisman masters of Skyward Pavilion integrate into my Fu clan quickly and get more help from my Fu clan has a rule. Fu Yunbo said, if a talisman master is brought into Skyward Pavilion by a Fu clan disciple, then they are the senior sister or senior brother of the talisman master. If the talisman master has any problems in the Fu clan, he can ask this senior sister or senior brother. He can even ask them about talisman crafting. So that's how it is. Xiao Hua glanced at the beautiful twin sisters and said inwardly, these two can be considered I's senior sisters, but why don't they want me? I was the one who took He Fu's token. I am He Fu's senior sister. Fu Zhu's face showed some anger. But He Fu followed me into Skyward Pavilion.
Fu Zhu did not give in.
Of course I pulled He Fu in. You guys were just walking in front.
Fu Zhu argued.
All right. Fu Yunbo didn't know whether to laugh or cry.
He waved his hand and said, You guys don't need to fight anymore.
I have decided for you guys. Fu Zhu, and Fu Zhu are He Fu and Xiao Hua's senior sisters. If He Fu and Xiao Hua have any difficulties in the Fu clan, they can look for these three senior sisters. Thank you, Patriarch. Although Fu Zhu was unwilling, she could only lower her head. Fu Zhu smiled and thanked Fu Yunbo.
It's good to be young. Fu Yunbo sighed and quickly left.
Farewell, Patriarch.
Fu Zhu and the others smiled.
Forget it. Quickly settle your junior brothers down and go patrol the mountain. Fu Yunbo smiled and waved his hand. The talisman masters of the Fu clan were arranged around Skyward Pavilion. According to the rank of the talisman master, they were given different rooms. High-level talisman masters were given a pavilion, while low-level talisman masters were given a simple house. There were even some that looked very simple and crude. Needless to say, Xiao Hua was barely given a small house compared to the talisman masters of the Fu clan. However, He Fu was different. He was already considered a high-level talisman master and was naturally given an independent pavilion. However, when Fu Zhu led him to a pavilion and instructed the disciples of Skyward Pavilion to bring Xiao Hua out, he said, that senior sister Fu Zhu, Xiao Hua came to Jianghu Mountain together with this younger brother. No matter how you look at it, it's fate. From what Elder Fu Feng said, he was only given a small room. You see, this younger brother's pavilion is quite big. Is it possible to let Xiao Hua live together with this younger brother? On one hand, we are all senior sisters' junior brothers and it is convenient for you to give pointers. On the other hand, although Xiao Hua is not a high-level talisman master now, as long as he makes a certain contribution to the Fu clan, he will definitely become a high-level talisman master in the future. It is not fair to let him live in a small house now. When Fu Zhu heard this, her face revealed a look of approval. She clapped her hands and said, I didn't expect junior brother He Fu to be so broad-minded and loving. This really makes senior sister happy. How can my Fu clan not agree to this kind of request? The Skyward Pavilion disciple next to her opened his mouth but didn't say anything. He was very clear about the status of Fu Zhu and the others. He had no reason to block their interest. Chapter 1470. Xiaohua, why aren't you thanking He Fu for his kindness? The Fu puppet didn't want to be outdone and quickly ordered Xiaohua. Xiaohua naturally knew what He Fu puppet meant and secretly cursed the Fu puppet. Do I lack this? You want me to be your shield for no reason. However, he lowered his head and thought for a moment before cupping his hands. Since that's the case, I thank senior brother He for his kindness. I hope I won't disturb senior brother's peace here. Don't mention it. He Fu puppet smiled. You and I should support each other and improve together. Fu Zhu also said, yes, Xiaohua, when you're free, you should ask He Fu for advice. Just now, senior sister also saw the yellow talisman you refined. To be honest, your basic skills are still lacking. Even if I give you the method to write the confinement talisman, you may not be able to refine it. Senior sister is right. Xiaohua's face was respectful, but his heart was disdainful. The Fu puppet also scolded, next to the pavilion is a quiet room dedicated to making talismans. If you're free, Xiaohua can practice more. The three senior sisters' performance in front of He Fu puppet made Xiaohua feel uncomfortable. He Fu puppet smiled and said, Senior sisters, it's getting late. This mountain. Do we still need to patrol? Io, of course. Fu Zhu was the first to shout. Let's go, or the clan master will be angry. As she spoke, she urged her transcendence energy and flew into the air. Then, she turned her head and smiled extremely gracefully. Junior brother He, rest for now. When senior sister is done with my duty, I'll come and see you. Senior sisters, the days ahead are still long. He Fu puppet also politely returned the courtesy. His words made the three senior sisters' hearts warm. After Fu Zhu and the others left, the Skyward Pavilion disciple led the two into the house, explained a few things, and also left. He Fu puppet looked around and smiled. Junior brother Xiao, why do I feel that you look familiar? Have we met somewhere before? Xiaohua had already thought about it in his heart. He frowned and pondered for a moment before saying, Senior martial brother He, you're right. I also feel that senior martial brother looks familiar. You look like a rogue cultivator I saw at Jianghu City's E.G. Is that so? Song Ying's expression did not change as he asked curiously, I am from Jianghu City. What a coincidence. Xiaohua lightly shook his head and said, Little brother has forgotten that fellow Taoist's name, but he's an artificer and doesn't know how to craft talismans at all. Furthermore, that fellow Taoist is in the 7th or 8th layer of the aura refining realm, while senior martial brother He is only in the 5th layer. No matter what, it can't be the fellow Taoist I saw. Yes, that's true. I am also very interested in you as a fellow Taoist. If there is a chance in the future, you can introduce me to you. Song Ying said with a smile. Xiaohua still shook his head. I haven't been to Jianghu City for a long time. Who knows if I'll run into it again. Let's leave it to fate. Gong De patted Xiaohua's shoulder. Your cultivation is insufficient, and you don't have the skill to refine yellow talismans. You can only refine middle-grade fireball talismans in a short period of time. This contribution to the Fu clan is still limited. If I have the chance, I'll teach you more about the Tao of talisman crafting. Many thanks, senior martial brother He. Xiaohua said with a face full of joy. All right, this pavilion has 2 floors. I'll live on the upper floor. You'll have to suffer the inconvenience of living on the lower floor. It's better than a small house. Yes, little brother also has the same idea. Xiaohua echoed. Soon after, Xiaohua settled down in the Fu clan of Jinhua Mountain. On one hand, he meditated in the pavilion. On the other hand, he found time to refine fireball talismans in the quiet room next to the pavilion. In fact, as a peripheral talisman crafting master of the Fu clan, His job was purely to refine yellow talismans for the Fu clan. However, if one wanted to refine yellow talismans outside, they would have to go to EG to trade and purchase talisman ink and talisman paper. In the Fu clan, one only needed to refine a sufficient amount of yellow talismans every day. The Fu clan would give you a corresponding record based on the number of yellow talismans you refined. These records could be exchanged for spirit stones, pills, and the Fu clan's talisman crafting techniques. Xiao Hua's focus was on the Fu clan's Yunqing talisman. This thing was in the category of spirit talismans. If Xiao Hua didn't have any special methods, it was impossible for him to obtain it. Therefore, he didn't do anything for the time being. Every day, like Xiao Hua, he took out a certain amount of time and went to the quiet room to craft talismans. He didn't go behind Xiao Hua's back. He used the 5-star alignment technique to refine a fixed number of yellow talismans. Then, when Xiao Hua was refining fireball talismans, he gave Xiao Hua some pointers. This allowed Xiao Hua's talisman brush to refine yellow talismans to improve greatly. He also learned a lot of techniques. Unfortunately, Xiao Hua never really used talisman brushes to refine yellow talismans. These improvements weren't very useful to him. Of course, there were many subtle techniques and different ways of thinking that were beneficial to Xiao Hua. At least, Xiao Hua's icicle talisman could be successfully refined to the middle grade after a month of concentrated practice. However, this wasn't Xiao Hua's greatest gain. Xiao Hua's greatest gain was the 5-star alignment technique. According to Xiao Hua's thinking, the 5-star alignment technique could only be learned if one could refine all 5 elements yellow talismans. Moreover, he was always as quick as a dragonfly skimming the water. It was impossible for Xiao Hua to see it clearly. And Xiao Hua indeed didn't see it. Xiao Hua didn't see it. However, didn't Xiao Hua have that kind of perception? The quiet room for talisman crafting was only so big. Although Xiao Hua's perception wasn't as good as his divine sense, he could still clearly perceive the changes in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. He also knew how to refine the fireball talisman. With this as a reference, a month's time was enough for Xiao Hua to completely learn how to refine the 5 elements yellow talisman. As for those techniques, after Xiao Hua learned how to refine the 5 elements yellow talisman, he abandoned the talisman brush and used his 10 fingers to try it out. It was very easy for him to successfully refine it. Moreover, according to Xiao Hua's understanding, the 5-star alignment technique was a gimmick. In fact, it was a different approach to the same result as the writing method of the imprisonment talisman. However, during the refining process, the last stroke of the 5 elements yellow talisman was only slightly delayed by the use of transcendence energy. The opposite yellow talisman was also drawn in the air. These talisman characters were just floating in the air, waiting for him to use the technique to enter the talisman paper. However, when Xiao Hua truly used the 5-star alignment technique to completely refine the 5 elements yellow talisman, the gimmick that he disdained made him unexpectedly happy. Why? Because the 5 elements yellow talisman refined using the 5-star alignment technique contained a very uniform amount of spiritual qi of heaven and earth. The quality of the 5 yellow talismans were completely the same. In other words, although Xiao Hua's icicle talisman was only a middle-grade talisman, and the wood-life talisman was also a middle-grade talisman. However, under the leadership of his top-grade fireball talisman, all of the 5 elements yellow talismans had reached the high-grade realm. Good heavens, this young master still underestimated others. When Xiao Hua saw that he had refined the low-grade 5 elements yellow talismans to the high grade, he couldn't help but suddenly realize that although the refining method of the 5 elements yellow talisman was rare, compared to the 5-star alignment technique, it really wasn't worth mentioning. This was because the 5-star alignment technique could overcome the problem of a talisman master's physique. It could evenly distribute the quality of the talisman master's most proficient talisman to the other yellow talismans. This might not be too conspicuous among the low-grade yellow talismans, but what if the 5-star alignment technique was used to refine the high-grade 5 elements yellow talisman? Even the 5-element spirit talisman? That was an incredible matter. It was no wonder that the Fu family head Fu Yunbo was so shocked when he saw that Song Ying could use the 5-star alignment technique. This Song Ying is also strange. He came here to take revenge and even accidentally concealed his identity? How could he not attract the attention of others? Xiao Hua didn't understand Song Ying's actions. However, it didn't matter if Xiao Hua didn't understand. In this 1 month, Song Ying's relationship with Fu Zhu, Fu Ho, and Fu Zhu became clearer and more complicated.
At first, the three of them came very frequently, but as if they had a tacit understanding with each other, they came at different times.
Later, the three of them came at different times. Fu Zhu and Fu Hou still came often, but Fu Hou's frequency gradually decreased, but she still came. After another 10 days, Fu Zhu came less and less. Instead, it was Fu Hou who came often, and every time, her face was red and her eyes were filled with sweetness. Good heavens, this is also junior brothers. Why is there such a difference in treatment? Xiao Hua, who had been ignored by his three senior sisters as soon as he arrived at Jinhua Mountain, often saw Fu Hou flying over and skipping into the courtyard. He couldn't help but rub his nose and smile bitterly. Every time these senior sisters came to visit, Xiao Hua would tactfully avoid them. He would either go to the quiet room to craft talismans or go to other talisman masters to ask for advice. Of course, Xiao Hua's tactfulness also made Song Ying return the favor. Occasionally, when he gave pointers on the fireball talisman, Song Ying would refine some high-level iron cloak talisman and Vajra talisman for Xiao Hua. One time, after Fu Hou left, Song Ying actually refined the flying sword talisman in the quiet room. Admittedly, he didn't succeed, but it opened Xiao Hua's eyes. He remembered most of the talisman characters of the flying sword talisman. At the same time, Xiao Hua gradually understood the reason why Song Ying was so lively with these senior sisters. With these cheap master's pointers, and also telling Song Ying the precious yellow talisman refining technique, how could Song Ying's talisman refining technique not improve? When Xiao Hua mastered the 5-star alignment technique, Song Ying had also refined the 5-element yellow talisman to the high level. On this day, the Fu Hou came again. Xiao Hua had just left and was about to seek guidance from the nearby talisman master when he saw the Skyward Pavilion's disciple, Fu Shan, walking over with a gloomy face. Xiao Hua, why did you come out instead of refining talismans in the quiet room? Fu Shan scolded as soon as he saw Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua frowned slightly. After interacting with the nearby talisman masters for the past month, he had a rough understanding of the status of talisman masters in the Fu clan. If they weren't high-ranking talisman masters, they would be lower than the disciples of the Fu clan. Fu Shan's attitude was very common in the Fu clan. I have already finished my homework for today and refined the fireball talisman that the Fu clan needs. Why do you still want me to refine talismans in the quiet room? Xiao Hua indifferently argued. Fu Shan sneered, "Humph, I knew you're a useless piece of trash. Why can't you refine yellow talismans with the time you spend touring the mountains and playing with the rivers? If you only rely on your ability to refine confinement talismans, you'll forever be a mediocre talisman master." Chapter 1471. Humph. So what if I don't refine confinement talismans? Even if it's fireball talismans, it's enough. Xiao Hua sneered. Besides, why must I refine talismans? Refining pills and tools, which one can't I refine? Fu Shan looked at Xiao Hua as if he had seen a monster. He raised his head and laughed. It's really funny, really funny. Why would a cultivator with a different surname join my Fu clan? Don't you want to rely on my Fu clan to become a talisman master of my Fu clan and then have a chance to enter the inner court? To change your name and become a disciple of the Fu clan? Ha ha ha, Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said, "Fellow Taoist Fu is right. I have taken a fancy to your Fu clan's female disciples and want to find a beautiful dual cultivation partner. What are you going to do about it?" Seeing Fu Shan's increasingly gloomy face, Xiao Hua rubbed his chin and pretended to think. But what about Ai's three senior sisters? They have the looks and the figures. Even if they don't have the looks and figure, their status is also excellent. How can I not be tempted? You brat. You dare. Fu Shan couldn't bear it anymore and reached out to grab Xiao Hua's collar. Xiao Hua didn't dodge at all and leaned forward with a smile. What's wrong? You want to fight? Fellow Taoist Fu, even if you fight again, can you stop Ai's three senior sisters from coming to the Skyward Pavilion? You! Fu Shan was so angry that his hands were trembling, but his outstretched hand didn't fall down. Wait and see. Xiao Hua. Fu Shan's face was livid. He turned around and walked away. After walking far away,
He turned back and said, "All the new talisman masters this year must come to the Skyward Pavilion before noon.
Elder Fu Feng has orders. Xiaohua. Don't be late. Damn it, it's almost noon. How can I not be late?"
Xiaohua cursed and hastily returned to the front of the pavilion. Before he even entered the door, he shouted loudly, "Senior brother He, hurry!
We have to gather at the Skyward Pavilion at noon. Elder Fu Feng has something to instruct us." Xiaohua was afraid that the talisman puppet had used some kind of restriction. Just as he was about to go up, he saw Tsong Ying and the talisman puppet coming down from the second floor one after the other. Tsong Ying's face was flushed red, and the talisman puppet's eyes were also full of love.
Her face was flushed, and her eyes were watery and full of affection.
"Don't be nervous, Xiaohua. Today is the full moon for all of you. It should be the senior brother who will give you pointers on your cultivation and talisman crafting. It's not a big deal,"
the Fu puppet said with a smile.
"There's such a thing?"
Xiaohua was surprised.
"Can't Shiji give us pointers on cultivation and talisman crafting? Our duties are different from the assigned senior brothers. Previously, when you first arrived at Mount Jinhua, we were worried that you would not be able to adapt to Mount Jinhua and would not know how to solve some problems. That was why you came to us. Generally speaking, we won't answer questions about talisman crafting and cultivation that are too profound. And now, the senior brothers that will be assigned will be determined based on your performance in this month and the specific situation of your cultivation. For example, you can only craft fireball talismans, and your cultivation is only at the 4th layer of chi refining. There's also the possibility that you can craft confinement talismans. In that case, my Fu clan will assign a talisman craftsman who is proficient in both fireball talismans and confinement talismans to guide you. The talisman puppet explained to Xiaohua while walking. As for Tsong Ying, he seemed to already know. Although he had a smile on his face, his eyes were full of disdain. With a dang sound, the talisman puppet frowned. "Ayo, it's for real? After 10 chimes, you must come to Skyward Pavilion. Otherwise, you will be punished according to the clan's rules."
"Let's go. You all follow behind me and fly."
The talisman puppet called out and directly flew towards Skyward Pavilion. Flying was forbidden in Mount Jinhua's courtyard. As soon as the talisman puppet flew up, a patrolling disciple came over. However, when they saw that the person flying was a talisman puppet, they all smiled bitterly and moved their faces to the side. With the talisman puppet leading the way, Xiaohua and Tsong Ying finally entered Skyward Pavilion after the 9th chime. Elder Fu Feng was sitting cross-legged on a praying mat. When he saw Xiaohua and Tsong Ying enter, his expression didn't change.
Beside him, Fu Shan's eyes were somewhat ruthless as he struck the last chime.
"Fu Shan, all the new talisman craftsmen this year have arrived, right?"
Fu Feng looked at the dozens of cultivators in the hall and asked in a clear voice.
Reporting to the pavilion master, all 84 new talisman craftsmen this year have arrived.
Fu Shan respectfully said.
"Good, take the pavilion's token and invite the inner court disciples here."
Fu Feng nodded.
"Yes, disciple obeys." After Fu Shan left, Fu Feng lowered his head to look at the 84 cultivators in the hall and said with a smile, "Everyone here is the backbone of our Fu clan's talisman craftsmen. Presumably, during this month, you have already adapted to our Fu clan's lifestyle and have a deeper understanding of the art of talisman craftsmen. Many of you will definitely want to practice talisman craftsmen. Therefore, our Fu clan will select disciples from the inner court to be assigned to each of you as your senior martial brothers. These senior martial brothers will give you the most pertinent advice based on your level of talisman craftsman and cultivation. Moreover, these senior martial brothers will report the situation to our Fu clan's council of elders based on your performance. The Council of Elders will then decide which talisman craftsman can enter the inner court or obtain higher-level talisman craftsman and cultivation methods. Wow! When everyone heard this, they all began to whisper to each other. These talisman craftsmen had been in Jinhua Mountain for dozens of days and were already familiar with each other. Even Xiaohua, who didn't like to hang around with others, had also met several low-level talisman craftsmen next to Tsong Ying's small building. These low-level talisman craftsmen were also standing outside. When they heard Elder Fu Feng's words, they looked around and walked to Xiaohua's side. They cupped their hands and said, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, this must be the famous fellow Taoist He." Xiao Hua understood and quickly smiled at Song Ying. Senior martial brother these are the talisman craftsmen who live in the small building next to the small building. I usually go and nag them. When they hear about senior martial brother's talisman crafting techniques, they all admire you very much. Forgive me. I am He Fu. Greetings, fellow Taoists. During this time, I was busy crafting talismans in the quiet room and didn't get close to you all. When Song Ying heard this, he immediately cupped his hands and said with a smile on his face, I am Yi Shuguang. Greetings, fellow Taoist He. I am Ming Jing. Greetings, fellow Taoist He. The two fifth-layer aura refining cultivators very happily cupped their hands in return. Fellow Taoist Ye's Ice Thorn Talisman is already close to being a high-grade talisman. I really admire your technique. Xiao Hua echoed from the side. Fellow Taoist Ming's Fireball Talisman is also better than I's. If senior martial brother he interacts more with you too, he'll definitely benefit a lot. We don't dare. How can we compare to fellow Taoist he? When the two heard Xiao Hua's evaluation, their faces turned slightly red. They could show off in front of Xiao Hua, but how could they dare to be arrogant in front of a talisman craftsman who could use the 5-star alignment? You flatter me. Everyone has their shortcomings and strengths. We talisman craftsmen should learn from each other's strengths to make up for our shortcomings. Only by learning from other talisman craftsmen can we improve. Song Ying said very warmly with a smile on his face. Xiao Hua couldn't help but feel envious when he saw Song Ying's relaxed expression. No wonder this pretty boy won the favor of talisman puppets and the others. Sure enough, his words are filled with honey. Even the male cultivators who just met him were fooled by him, not to mention the female cultivators who relied on his looks. When Elder Fu Feng, who was sitting at the head of the skyward pavilion, saw that the talisman craftsmen below were discussing with their heads lowered, he didn't stop them and only watched with a calm expression. After the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, Fu Shan returned from outside. He was closely followed by a group of Fu clan disciples who were around the 8th layer of the Qi refining realm. These disciples proudly entered and walked in front of Fu Shan. They lined up in several rows and bowed to Fu Shan in unison. All right, everyone, please stop discussing. These Fu clan disciples are the elites of our Fu clan's inner court. They have profound attainments in both talisman crafting and cultivation. If you have anything you don't understand in the future, you can ask them for guidance. Fu Shan, read the name list once, then let the disciples take these talisman craftsmen to the place where they'll cultivate in the future. Yes, disciple understands. When Fu Shan finished speaking, Fu Feng flung his sleeve and turned around to leave the skyward pavilion. Soon after, according to Fu Shan's list, Xiao Hua and a female cultivator named Xianlan were assigned to help senior martial brother Fu Min. Moreover, Song Cheng was different from the rest. His assigned senior martial brother was not selected from the inner court disciples, but directly chosen by Elder Fu Feng. Seeing Song Cheng's eyes flickering with joy or uneasiness as he left, Xiao Hua waited for Xianlan and Fu Min to arrive. Xianlan was a female cultivator with an ordinary appearance. Her face was slightly plump, but this was only the layer of swelling on her face. Her body was actually as straight as a stick, just like the Fu clan disciple named Fu Ma. Xiao Hua's eyes swept over Xuanlan's body, then lost interest in looking at her. Xianlan, this is simply a waste of this wonderful name. Even if she doesn't have the gentleness of an orchid, she should still have the temperament of an orchid. How come it doesn't match at all? Maybe she has the wisdom of an orchid? Or an elegant character? Let's wait and see. As for Fu Min, he was a fat man of average height. His big belly made his Taoist robe bulge up high, and the fat on his cheeks jiggled. However, this person's forehead was quite high, and his eye sockets were deep, giving him a wise appearance. You're Xiao Hua. Fu Min, led by Xianlan, arrived in front of Xiao Hua. Greetings, senior martial brother Fu. I am Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent and hurriedly saluted. Why is your cultivation so poor? You just passed the 4th level of Qi refining? Fu Min frowned and said, there's still a long way to go before you reach the 5th level of Qi refining. Yes, my aptitude is not good enough. That's why I considered making talismans. Xiao Hua smiled apologetically. You think talisman making is easy? Fu Min sneered and said, I don't know how you entered my Fu clan. Look at your senior martial sister Xianlan. Her cultivation has reached the middle of the 5th level of qi refining, a whole level higher than yours. Only with this kind of cultivation can you make better talismans. Xiao Hua was speechless. Is this a show of strength? Xianlan smiled and said, Junior martial brother Xiao, senior martial brother Fu is right. Think about it, if you don't have a solid cultivation, even if you know how to make yellow talismans, what's the use? It's impossible for you to refine a suitable yellow talisman. Chapter 1472. Seeing Xianlan say a lot of things, mixed with countless think about it, Xiaohua felt a headache coming on. Think about it, only with senior brother Fu Min's guidance can we make further progress. Xianlan concluded. Think about it, shouldn't we thank senior brother Fu Min? Yes, of course. I agree wholeheartedly. Xiaohua finally let out a sigh of relief and smiled apologetically. Let's go, don't be so talkative. Fu Min scolded softly. If you can make progress and make greater contributions to the Fu family, my face will also be bright. After speaking, he left the skyward pavilion first. Young master. This is called talkative? Xiao Hua's eyes narrowed as he looked at Fu Min's fat body with some anger. Why aren't you leaving? Xianlan called out to Xiao Hua and quickly chased after him. At this time, there was no one left in the skyward pavilion. Only Fu Shan, who was standing in the distance next to the praying mat, had a complacent look on his face. He looked at Xiao Hua's back with a smile. In the past 10 days, Fu Shan felt as if each day had been a year. He did not know what was going on. In the past, the Fu puppet did not pay any attention to him, but it was not to the point of being cold to him. Whenever there was an invitation, it would accept it. Even if it was some rare and small gift, it would accept it without hesitation. But in this period of time, the Fu puppet's attitude towards him was completely different. It was as if Fu Shan was invisible and didn't see him at all. The Fu puppet's whereabouts were also somewhat mysterious. Fu Shan couldn't see her, and even if he wanted to ask for the reason, he couldn't. Fu Shan naturally paid attention to the small buildings that fit the criteria, but other than the frequent visits of the Fu puppet, Fu Zhu and the Fu puppet rarely went, so it didn't have much to do with the criteria. Thinking about how his path to a side branch of the Fu family was blocked like this, Fu Shan was naturally resentful. But with the protection of Fu Zhu and the Fu puppet, Fu Shan could only vent his anger on Xiao Hua. Of course, Xiao Hua's words from before were like needles that pierced into his heart, causing him great harm. Xiao Hua followed Fu Min and Xianlan out of the skyward pavilion and followed the mountain path to a cave. The cave was not big, but it was very neat and tidy. Several moonstones were embedded in the walls of the cave. There was a cloud bed in the cave with a praying mat on top of it. There was also a stone table leaning against the mountain wall and 3 stone stools beside it. Fu Min smiled and said, This is where I used to refine yellow talismans. Later on, when I entered the inner courtyard, I also taught my junior brothers here. Xianlan looked around and said happily, This cave is very clean and tidy. I think senior martial brother Fu often used this place? There aren't many male cultivators who are as meticulous as senior martial brother Fu. Even female cultivators like us only focus on cultivation, so we're far inferior to senior martial brother in terms of details. Fu Min's face showed a trace of pride and said with a smile, Because I have to teach my junior brothers every year. Even if we don't have any status as master and disciple, I feel that as long as I teach them, I have to do my best. Otherwise, I might as well not do it. Senior martial brother is right. Think about it, senior martial brother's time is very precious, and he still has to waste it on us. If we don't properly practice, then we'll be letting down senior martial brother's painstaking efforts. As she said that, she turned to Xiao Hua and asked, Don't you think so? Of course. Xiao Hua looked around the stone walls and frowned. He asked tentatively, Senior martial brother Fu, this cave seems to have a strange smell. How can that be? Xianlan pretended to be surprised. Think about it. Senior martial brother Fu cleaned this place so well. How can it be? Why can't I smell it? Oh, Xiao Hua is probably talking about the smell of sulfur. Fu Min waved his hand and said, "There's an earth fire under this Mount Jinhua. Previously, my Fu clan seniors wanted to use it to refine pills, but the quality of the earth fire wasn't good enough, and the techniques for refining pills were rare. Alchemy furnaces were even harder to find, so after trying for 100 years, they gave up." Earth fire? Xiao Hua's eyes lit up. He rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "Mount Jinhua actually has an earth fire? Then the Fu clan should definitely try refining pills. 100 years' time is really too short. It's really a pity that it's abandoned like this." Pity?
Fu Min shook his head and said, "That's what senior martial brother thought."
However, as the saying goes, everyone has their own specialization. This saying is true for people, but it's also true for cultivator families. My Fu clan's talisman refining technique is passed down through the generations.
As long as we can ensure that our talisman refining technique is everlasting, we can safely survive in the cultivation world.
Seeing Xiao Hua and Xuanlan's pondering expression, Fu Min became even more proud. He pointed to the east side of the cave and said, "Back then, the previous clan head put his mind on refining pills, hoping to raise the prestige and strength of my Fu clan to another level. Maybe you guys don't know, but 20% of the stone walls on the east side of Mount Jinhua had the earth fire drawn into the cave by refining masters. The scene was very spectacular, but what was the result? After all, my Fu clan wasn't Xuanyan school. How could we have so much energy and strength to both refine pills and make talismans? Although we could refine some low-level pills, we were still far from being able to compare to the real alchemy families." As a result, not only did we not succeed in refining pills, but our talisman refining technique also fell behind by a lot. The Fu clan almost fell. If it wasn't for the current clan head standing out and unexpectedly imprisoning the previous clan head, Xiao Hua and Xianlan, I'm afraid that the two of you wouldn't be here today as talisman masters. So that's how it is. Xiao Hua secretly nodded in his heart. He somewhat understood the hatred that was mentioned in Yunxi Lake. By the way, senior brother Fu, I heard that the Liao clan of Mount Gung was as famous as the Fu clan. Just after the Fu clan declined, they suddenly declined and disappeared in a short period of time. According to some rogue cultivators, the Liao clan seemed to be in trouble because of this pill refining technique. Xianlan suddenly asked, "Hehe. Think about it, the Liao clan of Mount Gung was about the same as my Fu clan. How could they suddenly disappear? Naturally, there are some secrets. I only found out a little bit of the truth by chance." Fu Min's face was mysterious and unfathomable. Xiao Hua really didn't dare to be interested in these things. He only wanted to know the location of the earth fire.
After thinking for a while, he said, "Since it's a secret, senior brother Fu should be careful."
Oh, by the way, are the abandoned earth fires in the east? Have they been changed to talisman refining places? Fu Min was a little unhappy.
He glanced at Xiao Hua and said in a strange voice, "What?
You also want to learn alchemy? Hehe, it's not that I want to belittle you, but if you can refine pills, why do you want to be a talisman refiner? It's so hard and you can't even improve your cultivation." Xiao Hua smiled apologetically and said, "No, I used to be a rogue cultivator. I only admire alchemy. I don't dare to think about it. I just want to find a quiet place to refine talismans. Although the earth fire has been abandoned, it's not easy to seal it. A lot of heat will come up. It's uncomfortable to stay there, so how can you refine talismans? Don't even think about it. This cave is where I used to refine talismans. In the future, you and Xianlan can come here."
Fu Min waved his hand and said disdainfully,
"Senior brother Fu, quickly tell me, what is the secret? I'm very curious." Xianlan asked in a low voice with a face full of curiosity and longing. Looking at Xuanlan's gaze, Fu Min's oily face became more spirited.
He waved his hand and said, "Sure.
This is an absolute secret. Normally, I don't talk about it. You know, I have the best moral character. I never speak ill of others behind their backs, and I never play any tricks. I'm an upright person." That's right. I've long heard of senior martial brother Fu's character.
He's a man of great ambition, and disdains to be calculative with others.
Think about it. How many people like senior martial brother Fu are there in Jinhua Mountain? It's my honor to meet senior brother Fan. Xianlan said with a smile. Her ordinary face actually blushed a little bit, making her look a little bit more beautiful. Unfortunately, it was only a little bit. Not to mention Xiao Hua, Fu Min also didn't like her. However, Xianlan flattered him very well, making him really happy.
So, he said with a smile, this matter, this elder brother is just telling you.
You are this elder brother's trusted subordinates. You must not disappoint this elder brother's trust. Confidence? Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had just appointed a senior brother, and he immediately became a confidant. This Fu Min was really smart. Senior brother Fu doesn't need to worry about this. Since we are senior brother Fu's junior brother and junior sister, of course we will treat senior brother Fu as our senior brother. Don't you think so, Xiao Hua? Xianlan actually forced Xiao Hua to state his position. Xiao Hua nodded while sniffing. He wanted to ask where the sulfur smell came from. Fu Min heard Xuanlan's declaration of loyalty and was already happy. He looked at Xiao Hua as if he was a close friend. Seeing that Xiao Hua was absent-minded, he was slightly angry. He put on a fake smile and said, some people, even if you treat them as family, they won't care about you. It's really bad luck to meet such people. When Xiao Hua heard this, his face slightly changed. He didn't want to hear any so-called privacy, nor was he curious about any so-called secrets. However, since Fu Min wanted him to say it, then let this guy perform. Thus, Xiao Hua cupped his hands and said, this one will also listen to senior brother Fu's opinion. Humph. Fu Min rolled her eyes at Xiao Hua and turned to Xianlan. Xianlan, you said that Gung Mountain's Liao family was exterminated because of alchemy, but do you know where their alchemy techniques and alchemy furnaces came from? Xianlan was confused and whispered, this one. How can this one guess? Xiao Hua's heart thumped. Since Fu Min said so, who wouldn't be able to guess it? Even if it wasn't the Fu family, it should be related to the Fu family. Sure enough, Fu Min lowered her voice and said, Gung Mountain's Liao family's alchemy techniques and alchemy furnaces all belong to my Fu family. How is this possible? Xianlan was shocked and said, the Liao family isn't stupid. How can they believe the Fu family? If there is such a good thing, why didn't the Fu family use it and let the Liao family benefit? Chapter 1473. Fu Min enjoyed Xuanlan's surprise and said proudly, of course they wouldn't believe it if it was given away for no reason. Think about it. How could the Liao clan of Gung Mountain be trusted? This. Xianlan thought for a long time and shook her head with a bitter smile. Senior Fu, how could I think of such a profound problem with my little brain? Why don't you tell me earlier? Hee. Think about it again. If the previous head of the Fu clan suddenly disappeared and he was in charge of alchemy and the current head of the Fu clan was in charge of making talismans, then, who would believe that alchemy was like poison to the Fu clan? Senior Fu, I finally understand. Xianlan said with a longing face. The head of the Fu clan secretly sent people to give the alchemy technique and furnace to the Liao clan of Gung Mountain under the name of the previous head of the Fu clan. He said that these things were excellent, but someone in the Fu clan didn't agree, so he had no choice but to give them to the Liao clan. Haha, you are finally enlightened. Fu Min laughed. What you said is basically correct. However, there was no need to go through so much trouble. The head of the Fu clan only sent these things to Gung Mountain under the name of the previous head of the Fu clan. He said that he would let the Liao clan keep them for safekeeping, and that he would return them after he took over the position of the head of the Fu clan. Xianlan nodded slightly, but later on the previous head of the Fu clan disappeared, so the alchemy technique and furnace were given to the Liao clan for free. How could the Liao clan not be tempted when they received these genuine items? Coincidentally, the Liao clan's Gung Mountain also had earth fire, so it was inevitable that they would repeat the same mistake as the Fu clan 100 years ago. The Liao clan probably didn't have someone as courageous as the current head of the Fu clan, who dared to cut his losses and pick up talisman making. They could only walk further and further down the path of alchemy and finally exterminate the Fu clan. The head of the Fu clan had a good plan, a good plot. Xianlan, you are absolutely right. It is also extremely far-fetched. Fu Min clapped her hands and said, the alchemy technique and the alchemy cauldron were only left at Gung Mountain by my Fu clan. We didn't allow them to open it, but they actually took it for themselves. How can this be my Fu clan's responsibility? Alas, in short, the Liao family, which was as famous as the Fu family, has now disappeared. There is one less family that can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Fu family. Xianlong said faintly. Fu Min shrugged.
Natural selection is nothing more than that.
Xiaohua stood by the side and listened quietly. When Fu Min mentioned about the Liao clan's extermination, he knew that this matter must have something to do with the Liao clan and the Fu clan's pill refining techniques. However, he was just like Xianlong. He didn't expect that the Fu clan didn't say anything and only sent these things to Gung Mountain. The Liao clan was like a moth flying into a flame. But what about those alchemy techniques and pill furnaces? Xiaohua's thoughts were different from Xianlan's. However, he also knew that with Fu Min's status, she would definitely not know about these things. What? Xiaohua, don't you understand? Seeing that Xiaohua seemed to have some doubts, Fu Min smiled and said, "These things are a bit deep for you. You better properly study talisman crafting. That's right. Draw one of the fireball talismans that you usually refine. Let me see if there are any flaws." Okay, Senior Fu. Please wait a moment. Xiaohua glanced at the slightly absent-minded Xianlong and took out talisman brushes, ink and other items from his storage pouch. The items he used in the Fu clan's quiet room were all high-grade items. However, Xiaohua didn't bring them out. Of course, the items he used now were the low-grade items from before. As soon as she saw Xiaohua's items, Fu Min pointed out. Xiaohua, I can see that you haven't been taught how to craft talismans. The first rule of talisman crafting is if you want to do a good job, you must first sharpen your tools. No matter if it's a high or low-grade talisman crafting master, if you can use high-grade talisman brushes and ink, you must use high-grade ones. All low-grade talisman crafting materials can't bring out the full potential of a talisman crafting master. Xiaohua smiled bitterly and secretly said, "This young master wanted to use high-grade talismans back then, but I was embarrassed. How could I afford to use them? Now that this young master has no use for them, why would I waste those spirit stones?" However, he said, "Thank you for your guidance, Senior Fu." Fu Min was slightly satisfied with Xiaohua's attitude and said, "Try it out." Xiaohua didn't put it to heart. After all, he could already craft the 5 elements talisman, iron cloak talisman, gold talisman, and flying sword talisman. Crafting a fireball talisman could be considered easy. When Xiaohua finished crafting a middle-grade fireball talisman, he handed it over to Fu Min. Fu Min didn't take it and only asked, "How many years have you been crafting yellow talismans?" Xiaohua was surprised. He thought for a moment and honestly said, "It's only been about 2 years." Then you've only been in my Fu clan for a month." Senior Fu is right. Xiaohua nodded. "Since it's like this elder brother won't look at your yellow talisman," Fu Min said mysteriously. Senior Fu, why is that?" Xianlong asked curiously. "If you don't look at it, how will you know how Xiaohua's crafting is? Xiaohua hasn't even been crafting yellow talismans for 2 years. He definitely doesn't have enough experience. And he's only been in my Fu clan for a month. He doesn't have any formal training in crafting yellow talismans. This kind of yellow talisman. Does this elder brother still need to look at it? Even if it's a middle-grade fireball talisman, it's still abnormally rough." Fu Min shook his head and said, "Moreover, looking at Xiaohua's improper attitude and careless crafting, this elder brother can already determine that this yellow talisman is definitely not up to standard. This elder brother needs to put in more effort to guide him in the future." Brilliant! Senior Fu is indeed an expert. Xianlong gave a thumbs up and praised. You should craft one too." Fu Min turned his head and said to Xianlong. Seeing this, Xiaohua expressionlessly kept the fireball talisman in his storage bag and quietly watched Xianlong's performance. Xianlong was crafting the weak water talisman. Her crafting technique was indeed standard and her attitude was naturally meticulous. When the weak water talisman was crafted, it was the same as Xiaohua's, a middle-grade one. But after Fu Min took it and carefully looked at it, his mouth was full of praise. Soon after he said to Xiaohua, "You should go back and craft the fireball talisman again. You still have a lot of potential to be unearthed, and there's a lot of room for improvement in crafting the fireball talisman. This elder brother won't teach you anything else first. In the next 2 days, I'll take a look at your fireball talisman." Then he patted Xiaohua's shoulder and said, "Do well. Coming to my Fu clan to be a talisman crafting master is your best choice. This elder brother thinks highly of you." Many thanks for Senior Fu's encouragement. Xiaohua bowed and thanked him. He turned around and left the cave. Just as Xiaohua turned around the cave entrance, he heard Fu Min whispering from inside the cave, "Xianlan, this elder brother will now teach you the crafting method of the wood life talisman. You have to watch carefully." Xiaohua slightly tilted his head and snorted coldly. He thought to himself, "This guy really has a pig's brain. Calling him a pig's brain is still a pig's brain." Then, he raised his head and saw that there wasn't anyone in the sky. With a wave of his hand, he took out an earth escape talisman. His figure flashed and he directly escaped to the east of Jinhua Mountain. Xiaohua had been underground for the time it took to eat a meal before he was blocked by a restriction in front of him. He had no choice but to jump out of the ground. The place where Xiaohua appeared was a relatively desolate place. The surroundings were overgrown with weeds and shrubs. It wasn't a place that the Fu clan's disciples often came to. However, seeing this situation, Xiaohua was secretly delighted. Fu Min had said that the place where the Fu clan refined pills was now abandoned. Presumably, the Fu clan's patriarch had forbidden the Fu clan's disciples to come here. Wasn't this place close to the place where the Fu clan refined pills? Xiaohua sniffed. The surrounding air was indeed filled with the smell of sulfur. It should be the result of the earth fire leaking out. Thus, Xiaohua carefully hid his figure and slowly headed towards the mountains to search for him. There's actually someone patrolling the mountain? As Xiaohua was walking, he suddenly heard the sound of something breaking through the air. Xiaohua hurriedly ducked down and hid behind a large mountain rock. When he stealthily peeked out half of his head, he saw Fu Zhu flying through the air. I haven't seen this Senior Fu for a few days. It seems like he withdrew from the competition. What a pity. If I could come here a few more times, I would definitely be able to learn a few more talisman crafting techniques. This young master would also be able to benefit from it. Xiaohua thought as he slowly walked out from behind the mountain rock and continued forward. However, Fu Zhu didn't fly too far. When she reached the east side, she landed. After looking around, she flew down again. This senior sister. Could it be that she isn't here to patrol the mountain? Xiaohua was somewhat curious. However, he wasn't in the mood to pry into other people's secrets. He focused on finding the location of the pill refinement. The east side of the Fu clan's Mount Gold had been abandoned for a long time. Moreover, Xiaohua didn't know what the pill refinement location was like. He could only search according to the appearance of the cave. After searching for a long time, he saw many collapsed caves. Xiaohua suddenly realized, the Fu clan has earth fire, but they can't have many pill refinement furnaces. Since there aren't many pill refinement furnaces, there shouldn't be many caves. Perhaps, these collapsed caves were all used for pill refinement in the past. Xiaohua thought for a moment and looked around. He flew up a little and looked at the surrounding terrain. Then, he landed again and walked towards the center of the collapsed cave without looking back. In the center of the collapsed cave was a depression. It was also a mess. There were green bricks, mountain rocks, and some filthy jade. The smell of sulfur is even stronger here. Perhaps the earth fire is here. Xiaohua thought as he channeled his magic power and flew underground. Fortunately, the underground restriction was only around the earth fire. There weren't any restrictions in this depression. After searching for a moment in the sunken area, Xiaohua saw a slightly intact underground passage. That passage was carved out with great transcendence energy. Although it was pitch black inside, the grooves on the stone walls showed that there used to be moonlight stones here. There's a door. Xiaohua stepped on the solid mountain rocks in the underground passage. He was secretly delighted. Then, he placed the black iron array in front of him and held the devil spear in his hand. Step by step, he walked into the depths of the passage. Chapter 1474. The passageway of Mount Jianhua was very spacious and seemed to be very dangerous. However, Xiao Hua gathered his spirit and was as meticulous and careful as the 100-zhong peak. Even after he turned a few corners and walked into a huge hall, he still didn't encounter any danger. Xiao Hua stood at one side of the hall. He first released his perception and checked that there was no one else around. Then, he took out some moonstones from his storage pouch and threw them on the four walls of the hall. After that, Xiao Hua squinted his eyes and carefully sized up the hall. The interior of the hall was extremely spacious. There were only a few broken jade tables and chairs. Moreover, they were all tilted to the left and right. Many cobwebs and dust covered these broken things. In the middle of the hall, there was a tall platform with a radius of 10 feet. It was as tall as several people. The specific situation on the platform could not be seen. Xiao Hua wasn't in a hurry to get on the platform. He urged his magic power and flew up into the air. He flew around the hall and saw that there was no entrance to go up. Only then did he land on the platform. When he landed on the platform, he used the moonstone's light to see the things on the platform. He couldn't help but be happy. On the platform in the center, there was an earth fire that was exactly the same as the one in Shang Huaming's alchemy room. Moreover, this earth fire seemed to be bigger than Shang Huaming's. In addition to this earth fire, there were some jade bottles and jade shelves used for alchemy around the platform. There were many things in a mess. Although these things were crooked, they were all in good condition. These were all things that Xiao Hua needed. Needless to say, Xiao Hua didn't hold back and swept away all the things on the platform that could be used. As of now, the size of the space behind his head had also increased along with Xiao Hua's cultivation. Not to mention the things on the high platform, it was more than enough to move the entire hall inside. Of course, this required Xiao Hua to have enough magic power. This space is a bit messy. I need to find some time to carefully tidy it up. Xiao Hua involuntarily thought as he sent the things into the space. Next, Xiao Hua walked to the side of the earth fire. There was a layer of restriction on the earth fire, but the restriction didn't seem to be very powerful. After a long time, it had already loosened under the impact of the earth fire. Xiao Hua used his perception to take a look, then took out the tip of the demonic spear. Using all his strength, he repeatedly stabbed at the damaged area of the restriction, and easily broke the restriction. Immediately after, a heat wave and a thick sulfuric aura gushed out from the earth fire. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent. With a wave of his hand, a yellow talisman controlling the earth fire flew out, temporarily suppressing the earth fire under the yellow talisman. My goodness, what's going on with this earth fire? Why isn't it under control? Xiao Hua was a little puzzled. He remembered that Shang Huaming's earth fire was very safe in the alchemy room. Maybe the Fu clan didn't obtain the complete alchemy technique, so they can't control the earth fire well. They can only rely on the yellow talisman to suppress it. The yellow talisman's effect is always insufficient. Moreover, there is no one to specially guard the earth fire, which is why the earth fire is wreaking havoc. Xiao Hua secretly guessed. It is precisely because of this that this young master's luck came. Otherwise, if Fu Min couldn't smell the sulfuric aura, she wouldn't have said so much. With this idiot's appearance, he still wants to pretend to be profound. After being sold, he still wants to help count the spirit stones. Luckily, this young master and Xianlan are both talisman masters of the Fu clan. If someone outside knew about the grudge between the Fu clan and the Liao clan and spread this matter, I'm afraid that the Liao clan sons and nephews would also do everything possible to take revenge. Just as he was thinking, the earth fire's brilliance flickered. Oh no, this yellow talisman bought from EG is really useless. Xiao Hua quickly took out another yellow talisman and wanted to use it on the earth fire. But at this moment, his finger suddenly moved slightly, and all the magic power in his body rushed towards his finger. Xiao Hua's heart moved, and his mind became clear. He didn't control his finger, and sure enough, his finger became very nimble. Not long after, a spell that Xiao Hua felt was very familiar with was formed. Xiao Hua didn't hesitate to use the spell on the earth fire. In an instant, the heat of the earth fire quickly retreated, and the sulfuric aura also greatly reduced. Ha ha ha, Xiao Hua's heart was filled with joy, and the spell in his hand didn't stop. Immediately after, another spell was used, and the earth fire rushed out along with the spell. Moreover, The size of the earth fire was freely controlled by the spell. Damn it! My luck finally broke out again. Xiao Hua laughed loudly, and somersaulted a few times in the air before landing on the ground. His laughter echoed in the entire hall. Do I have to refine pills now? Xiao Hua thought for a moment. Although he felt that it was a little rushed, he had everything he needed, and there was nothing to prepare. Perhaps what he had to do now was to preheat the three-legged phoenix pattern furnace and prepare to refine pills. Preheating also needs time. I have no reason to stay here, but if I leave the furnace here to preheat, how can I be at ease? Besides, I haven't thought about what pills to refine, right? Forget it, I'll come back tomorrow. I'm already overjoyed today. I'll go back and prepare in detail first. Xiao Hua thought for a moment, flew down from the high platform, took the moonstone, and walked out of the passage. When Xiao Hua came out from the ground, he looked around. It seemed to be a remote place that he didn't recognize. He should have come here by running underground just now. Just as he was about to fly up to check the direction, a series of rustling sounds came from the side of the mountain rocks in front of him. Ayo! Xiao Hua was frightened and broke out in a cold sweat. He secretly said, "Why is there someone here?" Then he stood still and didn't dare to move an inch. After the sound, another female voice said in a low voice, "Why are you only here now?" "I've been waiting for a long time. You also know that this is my Fu clan's forbidden area. Only the patrolling disciples can come here. I just happened to be patrolling today, so I dared to come. But if I stay for too long, I'm afraid there will be problems." Xiao Hua was very familiar with this voice. It was Fu Zhu who he saw in the air just now. This beautiful senior sister actually found spring so quickly? Xiao Hua was somewhat curious, but he was immediately stunned. "Kiss kiss, I also don't want to." Another equally familiar voice said, "But today is the day I'm assigned to help senior brother." This voice wasn't someone else's, it actually matched. Damn it! This young master has yet to find a dual cultivation partner, and this fellow actually has a foot in two boats. He's eating from the bowl and watching. No, he's not just watching anymore. He's using his hands to scoop up the food from the pot and eat it. Do you still have a conscience? Xiao Hua was very indignant, but also extremely helpless. He felt extremely sorry for the two beautiful twin sisters. "I told you long ago, if you're assigned, just do it. How can you waste so much time?" Fu Zhu complained. "Isn't it because Zhu refuses to leave?" "Little kiss kiss. You know that I only have you in my heart. You are my most favorite Zhu." Matched seemed to pick up Fu Zhu, and the sound of clothes rustling could be heard. I wanted to tell Fu Zhu long ago, but you just won't let me. Every time I'm with her, my heart is only thinking of you." Matched's voice was somewhat mumbling, as if there was something in his mouth. Fu Zhu's voice was slightly moaning and she whimpered, "Don't. Zhu is my little sister. Since young, I've always given in to her. This time, let's not tell her first. Later, I'll find a chance to tell her. Don't touch there. I haven't seen you for a few days." Matched's voice was somewhat excited. "But I can't do it today." Fu Zhu's voice was a bit loud. "I have to go patrol the mountains. If I'm discovered by others, I'll be in big trouble." Matched said, and then there was the sound of clothes rustling again. How is Xiao Hua?" Fu Zhu suddenly asked. Xiao Hua's heart jumped, and the feeling of blood rushing in his veins quickly faded away. "Xiao Hua, he's okay. He's quite honest," Matched said casually. "Then, I'll find a chance to talk to Zhu. You can also talk to Xiao Hua. See if he has any intention of becoming an inner court disciple of the Fu family." "What?" Matched was obviously stunned. "What? Don't tell me. You want Zhu to look for you every day?" Fu Zhu said snappily, "If Zhu likes Xiao Hua, then wouldn't it be logical for you and me?" "Haha, I understand. Don't worry. I'll go back and ask Xiao Hua. I reckon that even if he doesn't have any intention of becoming an inner court disciple, he'll be very happy to see Fu Zhu's appearance." Matched said with a smile. "However, don't tell Fu Zhu about this first. Wait until I'm almost done asking." "I know, You don't need to tell me. How can I bear to see my sister sad?
Fu Zhu said with a smile.
Right, how's the thing I asked you to look for? Are there still no clues? Song Luan asked. Sigh, that thing is a secret of the Fu family. How can it be so easy to find? Besides, why are you looking for it now?
Fu Zhu said curiously. You only need to enter the inner court, and then dual cultivate with me.
When your cultivation level is high enough, this thing will naturally be yours. Hee, I can't wait to dual cultivate with you,
Matched said with a smile. Besides, I want to let the disciples of the Fu family know that Fu Zhu has found such a wise and powerful dual cultivation partner.
I want to let you shine in the Fu family and become an eternal legend. And you're so good. Fu Zhu was touched, and seemed to throw herself into his arms.
Another wave of whispers sounded, and although Xiaohua didn't know what they were doing, when the whispers entered his ears, it was like a cat's paw scratching his heart, itching unbearably.
Damn it! You're already like this with Fu Zhu. What can you become if you stay with Fu Zhu every day? You're still asking me, can I? Xiaohua almost gritted his teeth when he heard this. You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.